Before he died, my husband prepared to leave all his assets to his wife. Moonlight. Ching mo. You're used to living frugally. And you won't spend much money in the future. But Yahweh is different. She has to have the best of everything for her clothes and food throughout her life. If there's no money, she won't be able to live elegantly for her entire life. If it weren't for you causing trouble behind my back then, the one marrying me would have been her. This is not only my debt to her, but also yours. If you feel even a hint of guilt, you should join me in protecting her dreamy girlhood. Before he took his last breath, he unwillingly said, if there's a next life, I hope the one who spends it with Yahweh is me. I will cherish her for a lifetime. From beginning to end. He didn't say a word to me except to make me give up the inheritance. I was thinking, if it hadn't been for saving him back then, I wouldn't have missed the exam. And if I hadn't missed the exam, I would have surely become a great painter. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day he drove his luxury car to the school gate to confess to Jiang Yahweh. I sat in the examination room, gripping my pen tightly, effortlessly writing the answers on the paper. Shen Jingxian is going to have an accident later. But that has nothing to do with me anymore. After the exam, I walked out of the school gate and, as expected, did not see Shen Jingshuan's luxurious confession scene. My parents walked up to me holding a bouquet of flowers, showing their concern. Sweetheart, how did you do on the exam this morning? Were you nervous? In my past life, not taking the college entrance examination was the pain of my existence. So, after the exam, I searched for that year's questions and perfect answers. Having been reborn, I relied on my photographic memory, effortlessly recalling the questions from the test paper. So, I felt very confident. In order to maintain the surprise, I said lightly, I think I did well on the exam, but the results aren't out yet. So, I don't know how it turned out. After saying that, I casually asked, Mom and Dad, where's Jing Xian? Isn't he supposed to come and deliver flowers to his girlfriend? Why hasn't he shown up? My parents hesitated for a moment, then sighed. I originally didn't want to tell you, fearing it would affect your exam. This morning, Jing Xian had a car accident and is currently in the hospital undergoing emergency treatment. Oh, it's a pity I have an exam. Otherwise, I would go to the hospital to see him. After hearing this, my reaction was very subdued. I urged my parents to take me home first. In my past life, Shen Jingxian drove the family sports car to surprise Jiang Yaohui and planned to confess to her at the school gate. But an accident occurred. That day, after hearing the news, I immediately found Shen Jingxian and took him to the hospital, thus missing that afternoon's exam. Yet, despite that, Shen Jingxian remained ungrateful. He had been worried about Jiang Yao in his entire life, and before he died, he left all his inheritance to her. This time, I didn't arrive at the hospital where Shen Jingxian was until after I finished my exams in the afternoon. Following my parents' tight schedule, by the time we got there, the surgery had just ended, and a group of doctors and nurses walked out of the ward. The life has been saved, but the patient is paralyzed from the waist down. It's best to buy a wheelchair for him to make future travel easier. As soon as the words fell, Aunt Shen collapsed to the ground, crying with a heart-wrenching sob. Uncle Shen had a haggard expression, forcing himself to help Ad Shen up. Dad also watched Shen Jingshan grow up, but lamented. You say this child will be taking the college entrance exam in a year. How could something happen at this time? My mom quietly pulled him from behind. When Shen Jingshan was pushed out, he was half conscious. Only I stared blankly at this familiar scene, and it finally dawned on me that I had truly been reborn. In my past life, Shen Jingshan, in his pursuit of Jiang Yahweh, had flamboyantly driven a luxury car, planning to confess to her in front of everyone as she exited the examination hall. Unfortunately, on the way here, I crashed into a large truck due to speeding. Before his consciousness faded, he called me. After I received the news, I ran out of the examination room, ignoring my exam, to rush him to the hospital for treatment. Leaving during the exam without a valid reason means my exam eligibility is void. For this reason, I want to repeat a year. But then Shen Jingshan suddenly confessed to me. Ching mo. If it weren't for you, I would have died in that car accident. Just being alive, I'm already content. But you missed the exam because of me, and I feel so guilty about it. I quietly waited for him to continue. Little did I expect him to change his tone. All this time, you've had a crush on me. Haven't you? I want to marry you. In the past, I was blind to the fact that the one who loved me the most was right by my side. I widened my eyes and instinctively asked, "Don't you like Jiang Yue?" Shen Jingxian's expression was faint, making it hard to discern his true thoughts. It's impossible for me and her anymore. Up until now, Jiang Yue still hadn't shown up, which was enough to indicate that she didn't actually care for Shen Jingxian that much. At that time, I was young and thought little. Just because of a few flattering words from Shen Jingxian, I gave up my dream of becoming an artist since childhood. For decades, I constantly guided him, taking him to see different mountains and rivers, teaching him various massage techniques, and he only needed to open his mouth, and I would dutifully cater to him. He said there was no artistic atmosphere at home. I immediately contacted the best designer in the country to reshape the house into the style he liked according to his ideas. He doesn't like pets, so I gave away the dog I had raised for many years. He said he only likes the meals I cook. So, I study a few new dishes every week to cheer him up. Under my careful care, one day, he suddenly regained sensation in his legs. I was even happier than he was. Supporting his body as we exercised together, he finally stood up. Then, he began to contemplate how to achieve his dreams. And I fully supported him. In front of everyone in the family, he said that the person he was most grateful to in this life was me. But, as his career grew larger and larger, he suddenly remembered the regrets he had from his youth. Before the company's annual meeting, the assistant reported to him, "Mr. Shen, the Ms. Jiang you invited is now a national-level dancer, and her fees might be quite high." Shen Jingxian, however, said, "Go ahead and invite her, no matter the cost." The assistant hesitated for a moment, still concerned. "Mr. Shen, should we let the lady know about this?" Shen Jingxian leisurely played golf, casually responding, "Is it necessary to inform her? When Jiang Yue arrives, she will naturally see it." That day, I accompanied a lady to discuss matters on the court and happened to overhear these words. Only then did I realize that Wang Jingxian expressed his gratitude towards me. He still couldn't forget this former lover in his heart. However, not long after, Shen Jingxian suddenly suffered from a continuous high fever for a month and was declared critically ill by the hospital. Before he died, he did not forget Jiang Yue and surprisingly transferred all the shares of his company to Jiang Yue's name. Even the property that he and I jointly owned was secretly given to Jiang Yan under the pretext of buying a house for his parents. When I found out and confronted him, he groggily replied, "Qingma, just satisfy one last wish of mine. Yan is different from you. You can cook and do housework. You can do everything. But she has loved dance her whole life. She can't do anything besides dance. And without money, she won't be able to survive. And if it weren't for that accident back then, I would never have married you. You've already occupied my entire life. What more could you ask for? If there is a next life, even if I become disabled, I still wouldn't want to let her hand go." These words struck my heart like a heavy hammer. After he died, I smashed his photo, his wheelchair, and everything that made me feel humiliated. This time, Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen were still crying their hearts out. But I remained unmoved. Isn't that girl already promised to be Jingshuan's girlfriend? How come she hasn't shown up even once? I heard that after the girl heard about Jingxian, she bought a plane ticket to travel. Afraid of taking on responsibility, my dad was sighing beside me. It seems that Jingshuan's taste isn't all that great. I mean, how can he still have the mood to travel after such a huge incident? As the catalyst for Shen Jingshuan's car accident, Jiang Yue's actions were indeed quite excessive. The elder Shens were filled with fury, pouring all their grief over their son's disability onto Jiang Yue. "We'll go find her. If it weren't for her, my son wouldn't be like this. If she could just come see Jingxian once, we wouldn't blame her." They planned to get in touch with Jiang Yue immediately to clarify the matter. But Shen Jingxian seemed to have heard the commotion and said anxiously, "It's not Jiang Yue's fault. I'm not blaming her. I don't blame her." When I entered the ward, I was not surprised to see Shen Jingxian completely wrapped in bandages. He could still speak, but his breath was very weak because he had not received timely treatment. He was trapped in the car for over an hour longer than in his previous life. So, his situation was much worse than in his previous life. The doctor said that it would be very difficult for him to ever stand up again in this lifetime. Aunt Shen cried inconsolably, "Son, you take good care of your injury. With your dad and me around, you won't suffer any grievances. Shen Jingxian was oblivious to his condition and said casually. It's okay. Mom. What grievances could I have? Once my leg heals, I'll bring your daughter-in-law home. Having said that, he wanted to sit up, but found he couldn't muster any strength in his lower body. He tried to move a few more times, finally sensing that something was off. My legs. Why can't I feel them? Is it because I just had surgery? Aunt Shen felt a pang in her nose and turned her head away. Shen Jingxian grew anxious. Dad. What exactly is going on? Dad Shen also hung his head in sorrow. Just as a nurse happened to pass by in the corridor, Shen Jingxian loudly called out to her. Can you tell me what's wrong with my leg? The nurse was forcibly drawn into this bizarre atmosphere and hadn't even spoken yet when Shen Jingxian suddenly went into a frenzy. Am I disabled? He struggled to move his legs, trying again and again. I watched him, not feeling the slightest bit of sympathy. Instead, I stepped forward and added the final blow. Jingxian, take good care of yourself. The doctor said your legs are paralyzed. Shen Jingxian looked incredulously at his own legs. In that moment, he looked just like a puppet with its strings cut. Aunt Shen saw her son like this and couldn't help but rush over to hug him tightly. Uncle Shen gritted his teeth and said, Jingxian, don't mention that woman anymore. The fact that she hasn't come to see you until now is enough to show that you're completely unimportant to her. If it weren't for her, how could you have ended up in that car accident? How could she go on vacation so comfortably? As soon as the words were out, Shen Jingxian hurriedly clarified. It's not Yan's fault. She knows nothing. I went secretly to surprise her. I chuckled silently. How could it not be Jiang Yaowei? If it weren't for her binge-watching dramas and demanding Shen Jingxian to give her the so-called dignity, we wouldn't have this situation before us. Yet here I am, an outsider, having devoted half my life only to be framed and trapped in a car accident that has confined him for life. He also said that even if he were disabled, he would not let go of Jiang Yaowei's hand. Such love is truly touching. Reborn. How could I possibly not help him fulfill his wishes? I continued my dream while he continued to be disabled. And everyone was happy. I didn't stay by Shen Jingxian's side day and night as I did in my past life because I was worried. But the next day, Dad told me that Aunt Shen had fainted. And Uncle Shen was overwhelmed, unable to take care of Aunt Shen and watch over Shen Jingxian at the same time. Moreover, I heard that Shen Jingxian was now on the brink of collapse, refusing to listen to anyone. Uncle Shen meant to ask me to take care of Shen Jingxian for 2 days. After all, we are peers, so I can guide him a bit. But the person Shen Jingxian wanted to see wasn't me. When he saw me coming, a hint of disappointment clearly flashed across his face. After I sat down, I opened the game Candy Crush. I came to see Shen Jingxian out of respect for Uncle Shen. If he doesn't appreciate it, then I can just go through the motions. Seeing that I wasn't saying a word, he suddenly smashed the medicine bottle on the table, just like a child throwing a tantrum. When the nurse rushed over, she found herself in a difficult position. If you don't get the 4, your wound will get infected, the nurse said as she cleaned up the debris on the floor and brought over a new bottle of medicine. As she prepared to give the injection, Shen Jingxian began to lose it again. Get away. He had great strength in his upper body, and the little nurse stumbled from his push, almost dropping the medicine tray to the floor. I put down my phone and slapped him across the face. Shen Jingxian, I know you're angry, but why take it out on a nurse? I knew what he was angry about. Because he could no longer get in touch with Jiang Yaohui. It was the same in the last life. After Shen Jingxian encountered trouble, Jiang Yaohui went into hiding. Later, after inquiring from various sources, I finally found her and brought her to the hospital. Once Shen Jingxian saw her, he obediently cooperated with the treatment. But this time, without my intervention, Jiang Yaohui was probably somewhere living it up. Poor nurse, who was already annoyed at work, had to keep her cool while attending to this ancestor. After I slapped Shen Jingxian and stunned him, he didn't calm down. On the contrary, he became even more relentless. Get lost. All of you. What's there to treat for a useless person like me? I rolled my eyes and said impatiently. I don't want to be treated anymore. I'll call Uncle Shen to handle your discharge procedures. Why are you taking your anger out on the nurse? Shen Jingxian fell silent. The nurse quickly managed to give him the injection and hurriedly left. As she left, she couldn't be bothered to look at Shen Jingxian even once. Shen Jingxian was glaring at me with all his might. Su Qing Ma. What right do you have to hit me? Even you can't stand this worthless person. Right. Watching him in a fit of hysteria. The corner of my mouth curled into a faint smirk. This is all your own doing. Your mother fainted because of you. And your father not only has to take care of her, but also deal with the company's affairs. But here you are making a fuss. Yet I tell you, Jian Yue is somewhere having a good time. She won't come to see you just because of your feelings. Seeing that I had caught a glimpse of his inner turmoil, Shen Jingxian angrily said. Yue must have gone back to her hometown after finishing the exam. That's why you can't get in touch with her. Don't say silly things. I picked up my phone. And just 2 minutes ago, Jian Yue updated her status on social media. I held the photo in front of his eyes and scoffed. Is her hometown in the Maldives? Shen Jingxian looked at the photo with an expressionless face. But his fingertips were turning white from clenching the blanket underneath. When I went downstairs for breakfast and came back up, he had already obediently hung up the anti-inflammatory 4. In my last life, I was afraid he would get hurt. So I always went along with what he said, claiming that Jian Yan must have been busy and therefore couldn't answer the call. During that time, I took good care of Shen Jingxian. I bought him meals every morning and evening, helped him with bathing, and coaxed him to take his medicine. Now the facts are laid out before us. Isn't he too busy to be pretentious now? As for Jian Yue, she's going back to her country tomorrow. After contemplating for a while, I decided to reach out to her. On the second afternoon, under my persuasion, Jian Yue finally arrived at the hospital. Shen Jingxian was not aware of this beforehand, so he had been acting lifeless all along before Jian Yue's arrival. Upon seeing Jian Yue, his excited voice trembled. Yue, you're here. I knew you would come to see me. Please sit down and take a rest. Everyone knows that when visiting a patient, one should at least bring some fruit. But Jian Yue came empty-handed and even wore a reluctant expression before entering the ward. Yet, Shen Jingxian was moved to the point of being almost overwhelmed. Su Qing Mo. Hurry up and turn on the air conditioning. I ignored him. I stepped outside the ward, leaving them a chance to be alone. In my past life, I gave up my studies and took care of Shen Jingxian day and night. He not only failed to see my efforts, but also mocked me for stumbling into a marriage because of his car accident. Indeed, when it comes to the person he loves, Shen Jingxian has never held back his genuine emotions. However, Jian Yue may not appreciate it. She stood at a distance and coldly spoke. Shen Jingxian, I have something to tell you. I'll leave right after. Shen Jingxian was stunned. Yue, go ahead. I'm listening. Jian Yehui got straight to the point. Shen Jingxian, regarding your car accident, many people are speculating that it has something to do with me. You must be the one spreading these rumors. How shameless are you to throw dirt on my name just to see me? The day of your accident, it was you who wanted to steal the car from home to show off on campus. How come in the end it's all my fault? I'm telling you, this matter has nothing to do with me. It's all your one-sided wishful thinking. And I won't take any responsibility. Shen Jingxian's joy turned into stunned disbelief. Freezing on his face, he hurried to explain. Yehui, you misunderstood me. I have never said that this matter has anything to do with you. You don't have to do anything for me. Just seeing you makes me very happy. Jian Yehui said sarcastically. Shen Jingxian, why are you so hypocritical? What are you pretending for in front of me? Now the whole school is calling me heartless. Are you satisfied? I told you a long time ago that I have someone I like. Why do you still keep bothering me? Now that something's gone wrong, I'm the one who has to take the blame. I'm so fed up with you. Just looking at you makes me feel sick. After Jian Yehui finished speaking, she shot Shen Jingxian a fierce glare and left the hospital room. Shen Jingxian watched the direction she left, dragging his body in an attempt to catch up and explain. As a result, with a thud, he fell off the bed. He dragged his weary legs, calling out Jian Yan's name, but the person in front never stopped to glance back at him. When I came in, I saw a fleeting glimmer of deathly silence in Shen Jingxian's eyes. I reminded him, I'm leaving in the afternoon. Remember to have Uncle Shen find you a caregiver. And Aunt Shen still hasn't woken up. Make sure you don't cause any trouble for him right now. I didn't know if he heard it, but looking at the blood streaming from the back of his hand where the 4 needle had come out of kindness, I called a nurse for him. But that night I heard that the wound on his leg had relapsed and required another stitching surgery. I no longer cared about Shen Jingxian's matters. I was only waiting for the scores to come out so I could attend my ideal school. With nothing to do, I made plans with my girlfriends to go shopping and then signed up for a few fun activities to lift my spirits. But just before I left, Aunt Shen suddenly called me. She started pleading with me to go and check on Shen Jingxian. Qing Ma. You need to come and persuade Jingxian. He hasn't eaten for a week and I'm afraid he might be seriously suicidal right now. I am in a dilemma. Auntie. I don't know what to do either. Jiang Yue has gotten a new boyfriend. And Jing Xiangu must have become upset after finding out about this. Upset. Hearing my words. My parents were frantic and pulled me to go to the hospital. Qing Ma. Your Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen have never been in good health. You should try your best to persuade Jing Xian. If something happens to him, old Shen and the others definitely won't survive either. Mom and Dad don't know the grudge we had in our last life. So they just think of it as a friendship between us. We can't just stand by and watch the Shen family run into trouble like this. When we arrived, Aunt Shen and Uncle Shen came up to us as if they had seen a savior. After not seeing them for a week, both had quite a bit more gray hair, looking extremely old. As for Shen Jingxian, he was huddled in his hospital bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. The whole person exuded a subtle sense of lifelessness. If he really didn't want to live anymore, he could easily jump off the hospital roof and end it all. Yet, he insists on going on a hunger strike, keeping everyone at a distance just to torment others. It's pitiful that Aunt Shen and Uncle Shen, at their age, still have to worry about him. Seeing that he had no desire to talk, I didn't say anything, but just took a picture of him in this state and sent it to Jiang Yue. No matter what, Jiang Yue is his only spiritual remedy. Her presence is worth more than all of us combined. The reason for helping him is entirely out of fear that Aunt Shen and the others would be too deeply affected by the loss of their son. And I couldn't bear it. Moreover, compared to death, I would prefer for Shen Jingxian to live living hopelessly like this. Then he would have to accept the fact that he is a and recognize that in Jiang Yue's eyes, he is just an optional spare. Mom and Dad urged earnestly. Jingxian, think about your parents. What will they do if they lose you? Shen Jingxian remained motionless, like a pool of stagnant water. Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen were anxiously at a loss. I had no choice but to send Jiang Yue another message. If you don't come over, I will hold you completely responsible for Shen Jingshuan's death. And everyone will know it was you who caused his demise. After sending the message, I symbolically urged her a few more times. You are only in your 20s. You shouldn't ruin your future because of a temporary predicament. Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen won't care if you're paralyzed. You can fully recover from your illness. Go home with them and continue your studies. Shen Jingshuan's eyes finally focused a bit. But I'm already disabled. I can never stand up again. Even Yahweh looks down on me. There's no chance for me and her anymore. I held my patience and said, can you put aside your infatuated thoughts for a moment and take a look at your parents? See how many gray hairs they've gotten because of you. If you were to choose to end your life because of Jiang Yahweh, that would be incredibly selfish. Shen Jingxian let out a bitter laugh and shot me a cold glance. You speak so nicely because you have all your limbs and are about to enter college. Everything is moving in a good direction. And I can never drive again in this lifetime. I can only spend the second half of my life sitting in a wheelchair. After saying that, he turned his head, looking utterly defeated. He even tried to take off the breathing mask from his face. At the critical moment, Jiang Yahweh arrived. Shen Jingxian, stop it. Shen Jingxian immediately halted his actions. Jiang Yahweh stepped into the hospital room and interrupted. Shen Jingxian, you need to stop hurting yourself. Am I not good enough for you? As long as you eat well and live well, I promise to be your girlfriend. The dead silence in Shen Jingshuan's eyes vanished in an instant. Then, he still said in disbelief, Yahweh, don't you already have a boyfriend? Jiang Yahweh quickly came up with an excuse and said, that was just a lie to you. I've never had a boyfriend. I just didn't want you to forget about me. After all, we come from different backgrounds. It's me who is not worthy of you. Now I understand. I can't live without you. Jiang Yahweh's words ignited a spark of hope in Shen Jingshuan's life. He began to eat well and cooperate with the doctor's treatment. A smile also returned to his face. Aunt Shen and Uncle Shen breathed a sigh of relief. Mom and Dad were also happy for them. That's great. It turns out we wronged this girl. With her around, Jingxian will surely recover soon. Wronged. Everyone was immersed in the joy of Shen Jingxian's rebirth. But I didn't think so. I saw Jiang Yawei turn away, her eyes flashing with disgust, as well as her dirty posts cursing on her social media. I knew then that Shen Jingxian's time basking in the woven beautiful dreams wouldn't last long. I no longer concerned myself with Shen Jingxian's matters. It's just that mom and dad still occasionally visit him at the hospital. And from time to time, they tell me about Shen Jingxian's current situation. They said that ever since Jiang Yawei came, Shen Jingxian has noticeably been much happier. Every day he is actively undergoing treatment and has started to seriously plan his future with Jiang Yawei. This kid Jingxian is now completely devoted to this girl. But I always feel that this isn't good. What if that girl regrets it later? The one who gets hurt will still be Jingxian. I was immersed in the joy of embarking on my journey, not caring at all whether Shen Jingxian would be hurt or not. Mom, this is Jingxian's own choice. What happens in the future has nothing to do with us. My mom was very surprised. Qing Ma, haven't you always had a good relationship with Jingxian? But I've noticed that you've seemed quite distant from him lately. I couldn't possibly tell her that I was reborn. So I casually made up a reason and said, Mom, it's not that I'm distancing myself from him. But Shen Jingxian once told me that he doesn't want me to get too close to him. And also, I don't want to meddle in other people's karma. Shen Jingxian has harmed me to this extent. This black pot is one he deserves to carry. Seeing my indifferent expression, my mother silently changed the subject. Early the next day, Aunt Shen and Uncle Shen made an unexpected visit. I finished breakfast and was about to rush to the airport. They saw the luggage at the door and exclaimed in surprise. Qing Mo, where are you going? Mom quickly answered for me. The child has finished the college entrance exam and is getting ready to go out and relax. Aunt Shen's nose tinged with sadness, and her expression looked a bit unnatural. Just before leaving, she suddenly said to me, Qing Mo, Jingxian is blind to your merits and can't see your goodness. Remember to keep in touch with Auntie after you start university. You can apply for the major you like. And Auntie is happy for you, too. I smiled, not letting my dislike for Shen Jingxian extend to the two elders. In my past life, although Shen Jingxian was quite a scoundrel, Auntie Shen and Uncle Shen treated me like their own daughter. At that time, with me around, they were somewhat more relaxed. But in this lifetime, according to Shen Jingxian and Jiang Yawei's temperaments, the Shen family is bound to face trouble sooner or later. Watching them, my feelings are complicated. And I can only ease the tension by saying, Jingxian and Jiang Yawei are doing well like this now. Uncle and Aunt, you must take it easy in the future and take good care of your own health. I don't know if Shen Jingxian will ever be able to stand again. But these two poor old people are destined to suffer. Aunt Shen's brows were furrowed with fatigue. Jingxian's temperament has changed dramatically. He needs Jiang Yawei by his side for everything. And that child is also someone who enjoys socializing. As soon as she stepped out, Jingxian became unhappy, neglecting both his meals and his medicine. Just torturing himself like this. We watched it all. Tried every means to persuade him. But nothing worked. We could only watch him every day, fearing he might make a rash decision in a moment of despair. Qing Mo, do you really think love is that important? I thought carefully about Aunt Shen's words. And they seemed to hold weight. Shen Jingxian unhesitatingly left all his inheritance to Jiang Yawei, regardless of his reputation. How could I not be doing this for him? Willingly giving up my own dreams. But blindly pursuing love will inevitably lead to hurt. I comfortably played for a whole week. As an art enthusiast, continuously broadening my horizons to gain inspiration is the most important thing. In this process, surprisingly, I did not think of Shen Jingxian even once. Half a month later, when I returned home, my father told me, Shen Jingxian is getting married. Before I came back, he and Jiang Yan had already held their engagement ceremony. And at that time, they were there. He sighed repeatedly as he said this. I was confused. Getting married soon. Isn't that a good thing? Mom said angrily. That's a transaction. That Jiang Yawei opened her mouth and asked your Aunt Shen for 5 million as a bride price. Her parents were even more outrageous, demanding that your Aunt Shen buy a house and a car for Jiang Yawei's brother before agreeing to let their daughter marry Jingxian. At first, Aunt Shen disagreed, and they even mocked Jingxian for being saying that Jiang Yawei marrying him was already a loss. This kind of family is a den of tigers and wolves, but it cannot withstand the fact that Jingxian is unable to part with Jiang Yawei. Aunt Shen, being a loving mother, must have kept these matters hidden from Shen Jingxian. I had long anticipated this would happen. Therefore, I am not surprised at all. 3 days later, the college entrance examination results were released. My score was only 20 points away from full marks. The anxious hearts of my parents were instantly replaced by surprise. They hurriedly informed friends and relatives on social media to attend my graduation banquet. I originally wanted to keep a low profile, but my mom said that after years of hard work, I finally made it. Of course, we should celebrate well. In the end, I didn't say much. It's just that facing such overwhelming joy feels a bit surreal after all. After Shen Jingxian stood up in his last life, he became quite indifferent to me. He focused all his attention on Jiang Yahua. And at that time, there happened to be a painting competition. The winners would have the chance to study in the best painting class in the country. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But when I brought up this idea, Shen Jingshuan's face flashed with a hint of impatience. He disapproved of my suggestion and scoffed. Just look at you now, all wrinkled. And you want to go out competing with those freshly graduated college students for a job. Besides, you're going out as Mrs. Shen now. If you end up making a mess of things, won't that be embarrassing for me? I suppressed the anger within me and said coldly, I took care of you my whole life, which is why I delayed my own dreams. Now that your leg is better, you start to look down on me. Shen Jingxian, how did I not realize back then that you were such an ungrateful little person? The more I spoke, the more excited I became. If it weren't for you, I would surely have walked the path of a painter, someone who had already lost their cane. The one who was least willing to mention their dark past. There was an undeniable bitterness hidden in his eyes. Don't say it's because of me. This is all your own willing choice. If you truly had that ability, how could you give up a bright future just to serve me? Isn't it because you know you can't pass? So you use me as an excuse to evade responsibility. That time I suddenly realized that all my efforts had merely been a joke in Shen Jingxian's eyes. Perhaps a grand celebration would be better. This way, it could quickly reach Shen Jingxian's ears. The next day I accompanied my parents to visit Aunt Shen and them. Shen Jingxian and Jiang Yar were also present. He remained indifferent to everyone, but a hint of a smile appeared on his face only when he spoke to Jiang Yar. My parents have been worried that my college entrance exam scores might upset Shen Jingxian. So, they have refrained from mentioning it until their elders gathered to chat. I came to where Shen Jingxian and the others were and asked, Shen Jingxian, in a few days is my graduation banquet. Are you going? Shen Jingxian was taken aback and Jiang Yahua asked for him. How many points did you score? You're actually having a graduation banquet. Shen Jingxian's expression slightly tightened as if he too was waiting for an answer. I glanced at him, smiled and said, only 20 points short of a perfect score. That 20 points I missed was intentionally answered incorrectly. Shen Jingxian wore a smile, but his eyes were filled with despair. After Jiang Yahua congratulated him, she couldn't wait to show off. I also got into my dream university. And after the summer vacation, I'll be going to register. As soon as she finished speaking, the smile Shen Jingxian was forcing instantly fell apart. Everyone is supposed to set off for the next destination of their dreams. But he, paralyzed from the waist down, is trapped at home. Moreover, Jiang Yahua and he are bound together by interests. Can they really make it to the end? On the day of the graduation banquet, I wore the custom dress my mother had specifically made for me and hurried to the venue early in the morning. Shen Jingxian also came, but I didn't have time to attend to him. After he arrived, he found a corner to sit by himself. When the last few childhood friends called out to take pictures together, only Shen Jingxian sat there in a daze, never coming over. Someone shouted at him, Jingxian, what's wrong with you? Hurry up and come over for the group photo. Got into college and is leaving soon. You should come over and talk to her more. A hint of embarrassment appeared on Shen Jingshuan's face. The platform was very high, and he couldn't get up there while sitting in a wheelchair. Moreover, he has become quite reclusive now, feeling somewhat out of place among everyone. 2 childhood friends from the past directly lifted him onto the stage. However, once he got up there, everyone was busy looking for their own spots, and Shen Jingxian was squeezed to the very edge. When the photo came out, everyone was laughing happily. Only he, coldly staring at the camera, wore a blank expression as if lost in thought. Later, there was a time when Shen Jingxian actually came to my door. I was very surprised. Lowering my head to look at him with a complex expression, he struggled to tug at his lips. Qing Mo. You probably didn't expect me to come. Did you? Can I talk to you? I frowned as my parents happened to return from outside. I immediately welcomed him in with enthusiasm. Qing Mo. You should have a good talk with Jing Xian. He hasn't come over for a while. When you were young, the two of you loved to play together. I paused and pushed Shen Jingxian into the backyard. I guessed that there were some things he probably didn't want to say in front of our parents. Along the way, Shen Jingxian looked east and west, seeming to be very nostalgic. Qing Mo. I haven't congratulated you since you got into university. I replied with a faint aho. Then I heard him say, I'm surprised you scored so high. Unfortunately, I won't have such an opportunity again. Let's add each other back on WeChat once you get there. We can stay in touch. When he sent over the WeChat QR code, I declined. No need. My parents and your parents are close, so I'll naturally see you when I come back for the holidays. I felt a bit hot under the sun, so I spoke up. The sun is too strong. Let's go back and talk. Shen Jingshuan's gaze dimmed a little. I didn't intend to seek his opinion either. He said nothing. I walked ahead by myself. After walking quite a distance, I heard a bang coming from behind. Turning back, I found that Shen Jingxian had accidentally fallen into the bushes while making a turn. He met my gaze. He turned his head stubbornly and resiliently said, It's fine. I just fell accidentally. I can get up by myself. Yeah. I turned my head and directly went home first. On the day school started, my parents took me to the high-speed railway station. Here, I happened to run into Jiang Yue. And Shen Jingxian was also there. He was quite worried. Explaining to Jiang Yue, once you arrive, remember to tell me if anything happens. Feel free to call me. Jiang Yue casually dismissed a few words before getting into the car with her luggage. Shen Jingxian looked desolately at her departing figure, as if he could burst into tears at any moment. The university campus is quite different from before. Once stepping in here, the atmosphere feels very relaxed. It's not like junior high or high school, where there was pressure to study every day. Moreover, I chose my favorite major and a group of like-minded individuals. I have been very happy every day. I often feel regret. What was I thinking in my past life to give up such a wonderful life for a man? I dyed my hair a platinum color that I had never tried before and bought many different styles of clothes. I started learning how to put on makeup, do my nails, and take beautiful photos. I went to a trendy restaurant to check in with my roommate. Each of these is more interesting than everything I experienced in my past life. When I returned home for summer vacation, my parents both said that I had changed and become more my own person. Aunt Shen, having heard that I was back, rushed to my door. Qing Ma, can you get in touch with Jiang Yue? Why hasn't she come back yet during the holiday? I looked at Aunt Shen with a hint of sympathy. It's been a week since the holiday, and Jiang Yue still hasn't come back. What does that mean? It definitely means she doesn't want to come back. Aunt Shen, I'm not very familiar with Jiang Yue, so I don't have her contact information. It's also possible that she went back to her hometown. Aunt Shen nodded. A glimmer of despair and powerlessness flashed in her eyes. I actually know that Jiang Yue is only with Jing Xian because she is after our family's money. Jiang Yue doesn't come back for a day. And Jing Xian sits by the windowsill waiting every day. Sometimes he sits there the whole day. I frowned. After Aunt Shen left, I opened Jiang Yue's social media app, but I saw her recently updated photo. In it, she was posing with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed foreign man. Their embrace very intimate. My mom instantly erupted with anger. I told you that Jiang Yue is unreliable. I had to talk to Aunt Shen and advise her not to associate with this girl any longer. I urged my mother to stay calm. It's better not to interfere in other people's affairs. What if Aunt Shen really falls out with Jiang Yue? Then Shen Jingxian knew that if something happened, no one would be able to escape blame at that time. Just before school started, Jiang Yue finally returned. She was getting more and more refined in her appearance, with fiery red lips and stepping in high heels. She perfectly embodied the image of a wealthy and beautiful woman. Aunt Shen said that as soon as she returned, Shen Jingxian seemed to have come back to life. The house was finally no longer lifeless. But in the days leading up to the start of school, Shen Jingxian began to refuse food again. Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen were also troubled by this, to the point where they couldn't eat. The next morning, Aunt Shen and Uncle Shen came to the door and immediately asked my parents to borrow 500,000. The two families had had a friendship for many years. My parents naturally handed over the money without a second thought. But they had some concerns about the Shin family situation. Old Shin. What happened at home? The Shin family wasn't in a bad situation. Uncle Shin used to run a company. They lived in a detached villa. So by all accounts, they shouldn't be the kind of people who needed to borrow 500,000. Aunt Shin's eyes immediately welled up with tears as she cried. After Jiang Yawei came back, she said she wanted to join some dance troupe and needed to buy all kinds of dance costumes. She asked us for 2 million and even threatened that if we didn't give it to her, she'd cut off all contact with Jingxian. Jingxian's condition is becoming increasingly unpredictable. The doctor said he is suffering from depression. After Aunt Shen and the others left, my parents couldn't help but complain. Look at Jingxian. How can he be so unreasonable? Even if he's paralyzed. After all this time, he should have moved on. To put it bluntly, he's just too pampered. He can't handle even the slightest setback. Yet, he just happened to develop a love-struck mind. Falling for a girl like that. Old Shen and the others were about to be suffocated by their whole family. Love is important. But aren't parents important in his heart? I raised an eyebrow. What about Uncle Shen's company? Mom and Dad looked dissatisfied. If it weren't for Jing Xian getting into a car accident and killing someone, and then constantly threatening to go on a hunger strike, Old Shen wouldn't be stretched so thin and end up being targeted by peers who stole his big client. The biggest reason the Shen family is going bankrupt is all because of Jing Xian. It's a pity he doesn't understand the hard work Old Shen and the others have put in. I sighed, feeling it was unfair for Aunt Shen and the others. Jiang Yahui recently updated her latest status on social media. It openly displayed many photos with men, all of whom seemed quite close. Not long after, I saw a photo of Jiang Yahui with a man on social media. The two were head to head, their lips even touching. Jiang Yan posted below, officially announcing her boyfriend. Looking at the photo of that man, I suddenly felt he looked very familiar. It was only after racking my brain that I remembered. That man was Jiang Yan's dance teacher from high school. My usual updates are only visible to friends, so Jiang Yan naturally wouldn't discover me. Soon, a male friend sent me some screenshots. The content was basically a conversation between Jiang Yahui and that male teacher. Yahui, isn't 2 million too little? We could spend that on a trip abroad. Take a little more now. You can't be with that forever. Jiang Yahui replied. I originally thought the Shin family was wealthy and influential, but it turned out to be just an empty shell. After the company went bankrupt, they lost quite a bit of money, and now they have to rely on borrowing to get funds. And that useless Shin Jingxian, all he does is moan without reason. His leg is injured, but his brain is fine. Yet, he can't think of ways to make a bit more money. Just seeing his miserable state annoys me. After being back for a few days, he practically clings to me all the time. When my phone rings, he always insists on digging deeper and making me clarify everything. It's truly suffocating. I still prefer being with you. After all, you're much more interesting than he is. In order to travel beautifully with you, I'll find a way to score some money from his family before school starts. Perhaps that male teacher deliberately shared the chat records as a way to show off. It just so happened that my friend, who was eating melon, saw it and passed it on to me. I guessed that Jiang Yan was with Shin Jingxian, but it was only to use him to get money from Aunt Shen and the others. But I didn't expect that Jiang Yan actually hated Shin Jingxian so much. I can't imagine what would happen if Aunt Shen cut off her money. Shin Jingxian would wait until death, and Jiang Yan wouldn't even look at him again, let alone marry him. Shin Jingxian brought this upon herself. But Aunt Shen and the others are so innocent. Jiang Yaoi's appetite is growing larger. And in the future, they might have to force themselves to sell their house and car to support her high spending. If this continues, the Shin family will gradually head downhill. I blocked Jiang Yaoi at the entrance of the Shin family home. She was holding the latest model of a handbag as she got out of the Shin family's luxury car. Upon seeing me, she gave me a somewhat haughty glance. Did you need something from me? I took out the chat history and got straight to the point. You can hold on to Shin Jingxian, but you can't keep using that to blackmail Aunt Shen and the others. I'm here today to tell you that I've been keeping an eye on you. If anything happens to the Shin family, I will make sure they see the truth and then charge you with fraud. Jiang Yaoi realized I was there to settle the score with her, and her expression instantly darkened. Su Qingma, why do you keep coming back to ruin my plans again and again? I initially had no intention of getting involved with Shin Jingxian. It was you who threatened me to go to the hospital to see Shin Jingxian. Now I've agreed to be with him. He's A and I only received a little bit of compensation for emotional distress. What right do you have to come and dictate my choices again? This is not a reason for you to play both sides and deceive Aunt Shen and the others. I had no intention of entangling with her and coldly interrupted her words. Aunt Shen and my family have been family friends for generations. Their affairs are my affairs. I won't stand by and watch you destroy the Shen family. As for Shen Jingxian, whatever he does and causes is his business. You just need to provide emotional value. Aunt Shen has already given you quite a bit of money. And this amount far exceeds the market price for caretakers. Don't take things too far. Or I'll show you what it means to play with fire. I shook my phone and warned. Take care of yourself. After saying that, I turned and headed home. Perhaps my warning to Jiang Yawei had some effect. Before the start of the semester, there hadn't been any more uproar coming from the Shen family. However, Jiang Yan quickly hid her updates on social media. It seems that Jiang Yan has grown cautious, afraid that I would gather more evidence that might be detrimental to her in the future. I sighed to myself. I have no idea how long this method will last. Before school started, my parents suddenly arranged for both families to have a dinner together. After dinner, Shen Jingxian went outside to sit alone. I ran into him just as I was going out. His complexion looked quite sickly. I had intended to turn back, but he spoke first. Qing Mo, you look very different when I saw you. I suddenly realized that we seem to belong to different worlds now. I listened quietly, glancing at my phone from time to time. The atmosphere was somewhat awkward. I felt a bit irritated. I'm going back first. Qing Mo, don't go. As soon as I took a step, I heard Shen Jingxian's pleading voice. Can you stay with me a little longer? I haven't talked to anyone in a long time. I frowned slightly. Where is Jiang Yawei? Shen Jingxian lowered his head, feeling dejected. Jiang Yawei is with another man. Her dance teacher from high school. You should remember him, too. I was taken aback. It turns out Shen Jingxian already knew. I coldly asked. So, is there something you want to say to me? Shen Jingxian looked remorseful. After a long while, he suddenly asked excitedly. Qing Mo, I've decided to break off my engagement with Jiang Yawei. Can you come back to me? I finally know what kind of person she is now. Back then, I was so foolish to give up the one who loved me the most for her. After saying that, he lifted his head, looking at me with hope. Qing Mo, can you give me one more chance? I held back my disgust and asked in return. Is this what you want to say? Shen Jingxian nodded. His eyes filled with a newfound hope for the future. Qing Yimo, my legs have a chance of standing up. As long as you can take good care of me. Within 10 years, I won't need to sit in this damned wheelchair anymore. By then, I will pull the Shen family out of the whirlpool. I must ensure that you become Mrs. Shen in style. Then we can have a child together, allowing him to inherit my fortune. Shen Jingshuan's words greatly increased my doubts. His decision to break off the engagement with Jiang Yahui was, after all, understandable. He was so confident that his leg would be completely healed within 10 years. Why did he suddenly feel like he had been given a shot of adrenaline and started planning for the future? The only possibility is that he had been reborn as well. Shen Jingshuan's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Qing Mo, you've liked me since we were kids. We are childhood sweethearts. And no one is more suitable for marriage than us. I immediately interrupted him, saying coldly, Shen Jingxian, stop dreaming. Why should I give up my own dreams to fulfill yours? Someone like you is better suited to live in a quagmire. Don't forget your last words from your past life. Since you've started over, why don't you cherish it properly? Shen Jingshuan's smile froze on his face. Qing Mo, you've come back, too. I curled my lips into a smile and said, didn't expect this. Did you? I came back earlier than you. Right before your car accident. Shen Jingshuan's face immediately turned pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Now I've gotten into the best university in the country. And my future looks bright. You see how you're neither human nor ghost right now. Not even as good as a dog. After saying that, I quickly retracted the cold smile at the corners of my lips as if nothing had happened and returned to the house on my own. Qing Mo, don't go. I was wrong. Behind me, Shen Jingxian seemed to have chased after me, but soon fell silent. That night, Shen Jingxian was dragged back to the hospital for emergency treatment. After he woke up, he refused to cooperate with the treatment and Shen and the others cried once again. On the day school was about to start, My parents and I got up early in the morning preparing to go to the high-speed train station. Just as I was about to head out, the alarm suddenly rang out in the neighborhood. My mom curiously looked outside. What's going on? Why are so many ambulances coming here? My dad also leaned in to take a look. At this sight, it turned out that the ambulance was heading straight to Shen Jingshuan's home. Goodness! Something happened at the Shen's place. I immediately stopped what I was doing. Could it be that what I said that day provoked Shen Jingxian and he couldn't take it anymore? My parents and I hurriedly put down what we were doing and rushed to Shen Jingshuan's house. When we arrived, the Shen household was a scene of devastation. Shen Jingxian sat in his wheelchair, his hands smeared with blood. Jiang Yawei was sitting on the floor, utterly broken. A bloodied man was lying nearby. Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen shouted to guide the medical staff. Several people were sent to the ambulance in batches. Before leaving, Shen Jingxian glanced back at me. I turned my head away in disgust. I only found out later that Jiang Yawei had asked a male teacher to help her pack her luggage before the start of school. By chance, it was seen by Shen Jingxian. In a fit of rage, I went wild and stabbed him from behind with a knife. When we arrived, Jiang Yan was sitting on the ground, terrified. She only had a cut on her face, but the male teacher had lost too much blood, and despite efforts to save him, it was in vain. Jiang Yuan cried loudly at the police station. Shen Jingxian is insane. The teacher and I were just ordinary friends, and without saying a word, he started attacking. It's really none of my business. Aunt Shen lost her patience early in the morning, pointing her finger at her nose and scolding. Shut up. If it weren't for you having an unclear relationship with that man, Jingxian wouldn't have lost control and killed someone. If anything happens to my son, I will definitely take you to court. She took out the photo I sent her to show the police. Officer, this woman has taken a lot of money from our family, is engaged to my son, and even brought her male lover home. My son was just provoked while they were having a heated argument here. The doctor at the hospital brought some bad news. Shen Jingxian committed suicide by slicing his wrist. Before going to the hospital, he hid a small knife in his clothing pocket. He is currently being rescued at the hospital, but has lost too much blood, and it's feared he won't last much longer. Upon hearing this, Aunt Shen rolled her eyes and fainted. The last time I saw Shen Jingxian, he had his eyes tightly shut. No trace of blood or life in him. He had lost all hope for life. So this time, he left no last words and ended his life. After Shen Jingshuan's death, the family hurriedly arranged a funeral for him. A year later, I met Aunt Shen and them again. I originally planned to just greet them briefly and leave. Unexpectedly, they took the initiative to mention Shen Jingxian. After Jingshuan's death, we've come to terms with it. We raised him to this age. Yet he doesn't understand our painstaking efforts at all for the sake of so-called love. He doesn't even care about his own life. And then there's Jiang Yawei. Your uncle Shen and I found a lawyer and sued her for fraud. The entire Jiang family has now been sanctioned by the law. Qing Mu. I also want to thank you for giving us those pieces of evidence back then. I heard that you have recently opened your own art gallery. Uncle and aunt will definitely come support you another day. From their tone, it seems they have found peace. Seeing them able to move on, I breathed a sigh of relief. Shen Jingxian was inherently a selfish person, whether it was family or lovers. In his eyes, they were all mere crutches that he could discard at will. He died, and only the living could open a new chapter in life. Both reborn. Brother killed us all. This time we don't stop him from taking the poison. My 9-year-old brother often causes trouble. He stole paraquat to feed the chickens, saying it would make them grow more meat. When I found out and told my parents, he was severely beaten. He sneaked pills and mixed them into the cat's food, killing the cat. The family just thought he was still young and didn't understand common sense. So they only gave him a lesson until he mixed up his grandfather's medicine, causing his grandfather to develop a sudden illness and die on the spot 3 days. After his grandfather's death, he scribbled on his grandfather's portrait, which angered his grandmother so much that she suffered a stroke and died from a brain hemorrhage. My parents and I drank chicken soup laced with paraquat by him, and we all died that night. Only then did I realize he was born a bad seed, never changing his ways. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day my younger brother stabbed the ant nest. I fought the bad seed fiercely, relentlessly targeting him. Later, I discovered that everyone in the family had been reborn except my younger brother. A burning sensation shot through my feet and I jolted awake. I took in the scene before me. Am I still alive? I look down at my feet where the medicinal concoction in the pot is bubbling fiercely over the charcoal fire. Holy, did I just doze off and have a dream? No. Considering everything, I must have been reborn. I put down the bamboo fan in my hand, feeling empty-handed again. My eyes scanned the kitchen and I walked over to the knife rack to take out a knife. The sharp blade gleamed with a cold light, reflecting my furious face on its surface. My brother is just a rotten seed. Because of him, all the living things in the house have died. Right now, I just want to finish him off. I took the knife and walked out. But before leaving the kitchen, I stopped, thought for a moment, and put the knife back. I can't risk myself for that bastard. It's not worth it. I noticed the spatula in the pot, picked it up, swung it a few times, and found it was perfect for hitting someone. So I gripped the spatula and went to find my brother. As I passed through the living room, I glanced at the calendar hanging on the wall. I actually reincarnated on the day my younger brother destroyed the ant nest. I remember it very clearly. In my previous life, my brother destroyed several ant nests by the roadside near our house using a wooden stick to scatter ants everywhere. I happened to pass by and reminded him not to play around and not to get bitten by the ants. Then, he flicked his stick toward me and the flying mud from the ant nest, along with the ants, fell onto me. I got bitten by ants over a dozen times and almost had to go to the hospital for an injection. I indeed found my younger brother by the roadside with the fruit tree blocking half of his body. The fruit trees were almost planted on the slope. And no matter how many times the family told him not to play near the edge of the landslide, he just wouldn't listen. I think he's just too lucky. After doing so many bad things, he's never faced any retribution. But now, I'm about to become his retribution. I walked over slowly holding a spatula in my hand. When I reached behind him, I spoke coldly. Jin Wujia. My younger brother was startled unexpectedly. His body swayed, losing balance and leaning forward as he nearly tumbled down the slope. I grabbed his collar at the right moment and pulled him back. Jin Wanin. Are you sick? Are you an idiot? Jin Wujia broke free from my grip with a backhand motion, still holding the wooden stick. His brows furrowed as he glared at me angrily. I tucked the hand holding the spatula behind my back. Looking at this kid, who appears harmless on the surface but is actually a heinous demon, I really wanted to swing my spatula at him. Hold back. Just a little longer. Wait for him to make the first move. I need a justifiable reason to act. Mom said not to play there. Have you forgotten? Jin Wujia pointed his nose at me. What I do is none of your business. You get to control me. LOL. You don't get to control me. You don't get to control me. He shook his head and made a face at me, the wooden stick pointing at me, almost touching my face. The stick was already covered with yellow mud from the ant nest, and a few crawling ants could still be seen. Seeing his utterly annoying expression, I smiled and tightened my grip on the spatula in my hand. Under his smug gaze, the spatula struck his hand. With a sharp slap, the stick in his hand fell to the ground, followed by his howls of pain. Grinning and baring his teeth, he roared at me. You dare hit me? You're finished. Jin Wenin. You're dead. Looking at that face now, it was like a demon reincarnated. In my past life, I thought his words, "You're dead," were just empty threats. But I never imagined he actually wanted us dead. I sneered and gave his arm another lash. Come on. Jin Wujia bent down to pick up the wooden stick. But I wasn't about to let him have his way. I swung the spatula down, hitting him until he howled in pain, crying out for his parents. Jin Wenin. You're a lunatic. I'm going to kill you sooner or later. Hashtag get you, and Wenin is trying to kill me. This crazy woman is trying to kill me. He ran away. And I chased him, hitting him until he fled into the room, locked the door, and crouched by the window, crying loudly for his parents and grandparents. I stood outside the window holding a spatula, threatening him with a sinister tone. Go ahead. Scream louder. What's wrong with a sister teaching her brother a lesson? If you're so tough, don't come out. That brat. Only 9 years old. Already had such wicked thoughts. Not killing you is already lenient. Taking advantage of being inside the room. Jin Wujia started cursing again and even threw things at me. I twirled the spatula in my hand. Throw. Throw more. Breaking things is your problem. You're just a lunatic. A crazy woman. I'm going to tell Mom and Dad and have you sent to a mental hospital. You want to send me to a mental hospital? I'll send you to a mental hospital instead. But a rotten seed like that is a menace wherever they go. Jin Wujia keeps making a fuss. It seems he hasn't learned his lesson. For now. He's hiding in his room. But sooner or later he'll have to come out. I have plenty of time to teach him a lesson. I went to check on Grandpa's traditional Chinese medicine. And when I saw it was ready, I extinguished the charcoal fire. After preparing Grandpa's medicine, I hid at the corner of the main entrance, still holding the spatula in my hand, waiting for Jean Wuja to come out. Jean Wuja hadn't heard any movement from me for a while and thought I wasn't in the living room. He carefully turned the doorknob, cracked open a gap, and peeked out. Only after confirming I wasn't there did he dare to come out. I heard footsteps and raised the spatula. Jean Wuja stepped out the door and, upon seeing me crouched there, screamed like he had seen a ghost. As he screamed, my shovel came down. Didn't you say you were good at dodging? Then dodge. I pounded his arms and back with loud thuds. Jean Wuja cried even louder than before. And this time he didn't hide back in his room, but instead ran toward the main road. He was going to find his parents working in the fields. And I didn't chase after him anymore. Half an hour later, my parents and grandparents, who had been working in the fields, all returned home. My family is involved in farming, growing both vegetables and fruits. I own a house in the county, and now that it's summer vacation, I come back to live in the village. As soon as I arrive, my mom puts down her farming tools and my younger brother follows behind her, questioning me. Why did you hit your brother for no reason? You even hit him with a spatula. Look at how badly he's hurt. I don't feel the least bit guilty. Glancing at my brother with a cold look and saying indifferently, he deserved it. Just go see how wicked he's become. He messed up that ant nest so badly, causing ants to spread everywhere. I told him not to do it, but he pointed a stick at me and cursed me. This is what he deserves. In my previous life, he covered me in ants, and I just hit him a few times before going to wash my body. When I came back, I told them about it, and they thought Jean Wuja had done it by accident. So they made him apologize and let it go. I observed their reactions and realized they hadn't been reborn and didn't know how terrible Jean Wuja truly was. Grandma heard this and quickly tried to mediate. I'm telling you, girl, you hit him, but don't hit so hard. What if you him? Jean Wuja suddenly shouted at that moment. It hurts. It hurts so much. She clearly wants to kill me. I tilted my head slightly. Hey, I didn't say I'd kill you. On the contrary, it was you who said you'd kill me. Grandma. Let me tell you. This kid is too bad. He just needs a lesson. My mom, tired of hearing it, felt fed up with us fighting every other day and was deeply distressed. Everyone shut up. You're the older one. You should give in a bit. You beat him up like this. You need to apologize to him. My brother was still clinging to my grandma, crying and shouting. I shook my head. She did something wrong first. Why should I apologize? My mom wasn't angry at first, but after working all day and having to act as a judge, she suddenly got angry. She grabbed the broom from the hallway and gave me a whack. Then, quite fairly, she gave Jean Wuja a whack, too. After hitting us, my mom threw the broom back against the wall and walked into the house. Day after day. Nothing but trouble. Hurry up and finish this holiday so you can all go back to school. My mom's slap hurt a little. But Jean Wuja, who was originally acting pitiful with 7 parts pretense, was now genuinely crying with 7 parts truth. I curled my lips slightly, thinking about how idle this kid was, and decided to find something for him to do. On the first night of my rebirth, I sleep at all. I was reviewing all the wicked things Jean Wuja had done in my previous life, wondering if my rebirth would change the course of the future. But it's okay. Jean Wuja is just a bad seed. Even with all the things that happened in the previous life, he never settled down this time. I absolutely cannot let him continue to cause harm. Ever since I was reborn, I've been keeping a close eye on Jean Wuja. When he was destroying the trees and trying to strip the fruit saplings bare, I showed up. I appear when he tries to pee into the chicken's water trough. I appear when he puts dirt into the dog's bowl. After a whole day, he finally settles down. I was scrolling through my phone in the living room and looked over at him when I heard a noise. His eyes immediately darted away. Then, he seemed to react. Glaring back at me fiercely, he shouted at me, "You're crazy." I smiled sweetly at him. Then, "You'd better behave or the crazy person might not hold back when the episode kicks in." As if frightened by me and remembering yesterday's lesson, he immediately went back into the room obediently. Not long after, The sound of him cursing while playing games came from the room. Go on. Go on. You idiots. Use your skills. Can you even play? Why isn't mid lane coming to support? Useless. A stream of profanity poured from his mouth. And he even got into an argument with a female teammate, making her cry. I stood up and found a stick outside. I originally wanted to use a broom, but I was afraid of breaking it and getting scolded along with it. When I entered the room, Jin Wujiao was sitting on the bed, mouth full of filth, arguing fiercely with his teammates. I snatched the broken phone left by my parents from Jin Wujia's hand, and he looked at me in disbelief. His gaze then fell on the stick in my hand, and he immediately flew into a rage. What are you doing? Give me back my phone. You idiot. I tapped the bedside with a wooden stick and said, did you feed your manners to the dog? You're disturbing me. None of your business. Give me back my phone. You crazy bastard. I swung the stick and hit him on the leg. And he went berserk like a mad dog, shouting and screaming as he jumped up, ready to fight. If you dare move a muscle, this stick will land on you. Jin Wuji's face turned completely red as he stood on the bed. His fists clenched tightly. What do you think you are? How dare you hit me? I don't want a vicious sister like you. Vicious. Yes. I am vicious. And I'm only vicious to you. Compared to the evil deeds you committed in your past life. This is really nothing. I nodded. What a coincidence. I don't want a brother like you. Either. I raised the stick threateningly. And Jin Wujiao immediately shrank back into the corner. Still arguing. One more shout at me. And don't blame me for being rude. I don't know if he was really afraid of being lectured by me. But he also took my phone away. As soon as I stepped out, a loud bang sounded behind me. The door was shut. And there was no movement until evening. In the evening, Mom and Grandma were cooking in the kitchen. Dad was upstairs. And Grandpa had disappeared somewhere, taking advantage of everyone being away. I went to the storage room next to our house to look for paraquat. To my surprise, the paraquat that had been on the shelf was gone. In my previous life, the paraquat had always been kept on that shelf. After discovering it, Jin Wujiao took it to play with and ended up poisoning the family's chickens. Now, why is it missing? I searched all around, but still couldn't find it. Thinking that Jin Wujiao had been closely watched by me these past 2 days, it shouldn't have been possible for him to steal the paraquat. So, I went home first. My mother was washing pots outside the kitchen door. And seeing me return from outside, she said with a slight hint of displeasure, where did you run off to? It's mealtime. I couldn't even get you to come when called. I don't usually ask you to cook. But you should at least be more diligent with helping out. Right. I casually responded with a couple of words. The food was already cooked and on the table. I scanned the room but didn't see Jin Wujiao anywhere. Where is Jin Wujiao? Where's your grandpa? My mom and I spoke at the same time and then she gave me a strange look. Mother placed the chopsticks in her hand onto the bowl. You hit your brother again today and now you're asking about him. I pretended nothing was wrong and smiled. I just wanted to see if he's throwing another tantrum. Huh. You've been hitting him a lot these past couple of days. What's the matter? Can't stand your brother. I snorted coldly. Who told him to be so unruly? It's just that you don't know. Jin Wujiao is a bad seed. I suddenly thought of that meal from my past life. At that time, my grandparents were no longer around. It was the first time we killed a chicken after they passed away and we made chicken soup, but we never expected that someone had put paraquat in that rich and fragrant chicken soup. All 4 family members drank it. They started having stomach issues in the middle of the night. Some were vomiting. Others felt dizzy. In the end, they all died. What are you staring at? You can't even serve a bowl of rice properly. I snapped out of it and by then, Grandma had already called Grandpa back for dinner. Where's Xiaojia? Grandpa asked. My younger brother ran down from the upstairs. I'm here. I narrowed my eyes slightly. What was he doing running upstairs? I glanced down. My cat was lazily lying under the table waiting for us to occasionally feed it when we had time. The cat was still here, which meant the cat food hadn't been given yet, but my younger had already gone upstairs and the cat's bowl was up there too. Unsafe. I'd have to clean it later. Grandpa looked at him seemingly wanting to say something, but after opening his mouth several times, he finally said, You 2 fought again today. My younger brother pointed at me and loudly accused. She hit me. It hurts so much. I nodded without denying it. He provoked me first. Bullshit. You hit me for no reason at all. Although Jin Wuji stood up shouting at me with a face full of resentment, I glanced at him indifferently. I thought I was about to face another round of scolding, but my grandfather's words left me utterly astonished. Siblings fighting is a common occurrence. If you're being mischievous and provoke your sister, you deserve it. My grandfather has a peculiar temper and usually doesn't interfere with our affairs. As long as the sky doesn't fall on the house, he stays out of it unless he's truly bothered. Probably because we've been making a lot of noise these past couple of days. Every time they came home from work, my younger brother would complain. My grandmother said, "Hurry up and eat." And then no one mentioned it again. After dinner, I found a chance to go upstairs and check the cat's bowl. Only when I saw no medicine or anything strange did I finally feel relieved. I still haven't given up on searching for paraquat. When they go to work, I sneak into the storage room for a look only to come out empty-handed. I'm increasingly puzzled about where the paraquat could have been placed. I even start to suspect whether my rebirth has altered the course of events. It wasn't until 2 days later that I was caught by my grandfather while I was in the storage room. "What are you doing?" Suddenly, my grandfather's deep voice came from behind, startling me. I turned around guiltily to look at him. "What are you doing here for no reason?" "Looking for something." I swallowed hard and looked at the hoe in my grandfather's hand. He was fine when he wasn't angry, but when he got mad, no one in the family dared to speak up. At that moment, I felt a bit scared and made up an excuse to reply. "Yes. There's a big mouse." Grandfather said nothing and I walked out of the storage room. As I passed by him, he suddenly asked in a heavy tone, "Are you looking for a mouse or paraquat?" I was suddenly startled and it took me a few seconds to stiffly turn my body, meeting my grandfather's deep ink-like gaze. "Grandpa, have you also been reborn?" So I opened my mouth to speak. Grandfather sighed and gave a soft response. There was a moment of silence in the air and my heart was overwhelmed as if the sea had surged into it. "Grandpa was reborn, too?" I asked in disbelief. "Did you come back from rebirth the day before yesterday?" Grandpa replied, "Yes." And I asked again, "Then you hid the paraquat?" "Yeah. It's hidden." I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It's good it's hidden. Good it's hidden. Otherwise, I'd have to worry every day that there's paraquat in the food. "What did you say?" "Oh. Right. You've also been reborn. How did you die?" "Was it your brother who caused it?" "Too. Not long after you left. My brother put the hidden paraquat into the food. We all ate it. I probably died that night." Then, when I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day my brother stabbed the ant nest. Grandpa immediately flew into a rage, slamming his hoe into the ground. "You wretched thing. If I had known you'd grow up to be such a disaster, I should have strangled you at birth." Our family of 5, including the cat, chicken, and dog at home, were all killed by him. I quickly tried to calm him down. "Grandpa, please calm down. Your health is already poor. Don't let that evil creature make it worse." Grandpa had poor lung health and in his previous life, he always took a combination of traditional Chinese and Western medicine. There were many kinds of medicine and who knows, that wicked person from the past life played with Grandpa's Western medicine, mixing up the bottles and containers. They were all white, so we couldn't tell them apart at all. Grandpa ended up taking the wrong medicine and passed away that night due to a sudden medical emergency. Later, when we took the medicine to the doctor for identification, we found out that the pills had been mixed together. My dad gave the bad seed a beating. Just a beating, because even if he were killed, Grandpa wouldn't come back. Counting the days. There's still 1 week until he plays with the medicine and tomorrow is the day the chicken was poisoned. "Grandpa, you must keep the pills safe this time." "Don't worry. I've already let it go. The Jean family is unlucky to have such a beastly creature." Grandfather looked deeply distressed. He never imagined that he would die at the hands of his own grandson. I shuddered at the thought of Jean Wujia using paraquat to poison the chickens, the dogs, and ultimately us. "Grandpa, did you hide the paraquat well?" "Don't worry. That little beast won't find it." Hearing this, my heart finally settled a bit. Grandpa and I agreed to keep the matter of rebirth a secret. I was in charge of keeping an eye on Jean Wujia. If he did anything bad, again, my grandfather said I should hit him hard until he learned his lesson. The next day, I watched Jean Wujia even more closely, afraid that if I blinked, the chickens at home would be harmed. Jean Wujia didn't know what to do. He became strangely afraid whenever he saw me around. At that time, he was playing with water. The water in our house comes from mountain spring water. And there is a pipe with a tap left open with a basin underneath to collect the water, making it convenient for poultry to drink. It's a perfect spot for poisoning. When he played with the water again, I didn't leave immediately, but stood in the yard staring at him intently as he played. He suddenly turned his head and saw me, then screamed loudly, "Ghost! There's a ghost!" Ha! He was wearing his shoes backward, crying and shouting, nearly tripping over. His appearance was as if he had truly encountered a ghost. I raised an eyebrow and glanced down at my shadow, taking me for a ghost. I actually wish I were a ghost so I could torment him endlessly, make his life worse than death, and force him to repent until his last breath. Jin Wujia ran to the fields to find his mother, and I walked to the edge of the slope, watching his figure running along the ridge of the field. His crying was so loud that it could be heard from a straight line distance of 200 m. He left, and the chickens were safe. I also returned to the living room. If Jin Wujia came back, Grandpa would send a signal within 2 hours. I heard Jin Wujia's crying again, and I ran to the edge of the slope. 2. Look. I saw him being chased and beaten by his grandfather. Guessing that he had caused trouble again and had just run into his grandfather's gun, I laughed. Jin Wujia was covered in red willow branches from being beaten. Truly a sight to behold. When I came back in the evening, my grandmother applied medicine to Jin Wujia's wounds. The sight of his injuries made her heart ache, and she kept scolding my grandfather. "You old man. Why are you being so harsh? He's just a kid. Why are you holding a grudge?" My grandfather's anger hadn't subsided much. He glared directly at Jin Wujia and shouted, "Small. Where's small about it? He's 9 years old. Has been in school for 3 years. And still acts so unruly. If he dares to destroy today, he'll dare to kill tomorrow." It turned out my younger brother was playing in the field and had dug a hole in the rice paddy embankment, letting out all the water that had just been filled. My grandmother also got angry. "You just know how to yell. Only your voice is loud. He made a mistake. A few words of scolding should be enough. But you beat him like this. Don't come crying later saying you don't recognize me as your grandfather." "Humph. I don't care about him. He's become like this because you spoiled him." The conflict was growing worse. My mother was cooking, and my father remained silent. So, I stepped in to ease the tension. "Grandpa and Grandma mustn't let their health suffer because of bad people. Stop arguing. My younger brother is just too idle. The practice exercises I bought for him have arrived. Starting tomorrow, he'll begin doing his homework." Only then did Grandpa and Grandma stop. But as soon as Jin Wujia heard there was new homework, his sobbing grew even louder. He slipped right out of my grandmother's arms, hid in his room, and didn't even eat. Only when the chickens at home were safe did I finally let out a sigh of relief. After that beating, Jin Wujia quieted down for a few days, not going out to wander around, but he still refused to do his homework. I forced him to write. With the summer vacation halfway over, after a few days of discipline, it was time to strike while the iron was hot and make him have an unforgettable summer. "I won't write. I just won't. If you have the guts, beat me to death." Idiot. He held back for a few days, but couldn't resist any longer. This time, he also picked up a stick, ready to fight me. I also held a wooden stick, standing right in front of him. "Come on. If you dare hit me, I'll tell Grandpa that you're being disobedient again." At the mention of the word Grandpa, he became so angry that his chest heaved violently. After yelling at me, he ran out. I chased after him and found that he hadn't gone to look for Grandma, but had instead headed into the mountains behind the storage room. There were many mosquitoes in the mountains, so I left him alone after he hid there. In the evening, Grandma and Mom brought back freshly picked peanuts from the field. There was a lot of work to do, so I went to help as well. I thought Jin Wujia would behave himself, but unexpectedly, early the next morning, I found that the cat at home had died. I was the first one to discover the dead cat. The tabby cat was lying in the hallway, foam around its mouth, dying in the same way as in my previous life. The cat had been poisoned. "Grandpa! Dad! The cat is dead!" I shouted. But Jin Wujia reached there faster than my grandfather, dashing up the stairs. Seeing the cat lying motionless on the ground, he wore an expression of curiosity, as if finding it novel. "Huh." He kicked the cat's body with his foot. "It's really dead." I watched his pretentious act. After all, he was the one who killed the cat. Yet, he had the nerve to speak. His expression at that moment was just like those psychopathic killers on TV when they committed their first murder. Get lost. I snapped. Grandpa went upstairs, and upon seeing the scene before him, his half-white hair framing a face as dark and gloomy as ink. You little brat. Did you feed the cat something it shouldn't have? Grandpa grabbed Jean Wuji by the collar and demanded coldly. Since Grandpa came back from his rebirth, he hasn't treated Jean Wuji kindly anymore. He might have treated him like a grandson before, but now the bad seed hasn't changed at all. We've been watching him closely, and yet the cat at home still died. If we had relaxed our vigilance even a little, it might not have been just the cat that died. With a loud bang, the tense atmosphere was shattered. I turned around and saw my grandmother standing downstairs looking up at us. The cup had already shattered, but Grandma still held the posture of holding the cup in her right hand. Whether from shock or daze, Grandma stood motionless, her gaze slowly circling the three of us. I realized something was wrong and hurried downstairs. I saw Grandma's body sway, about to faint. Grandma. Fortunately, my dad appeared just in time and caught Grandma, preventing her from fainting and falling onto the glass shards. What's going on? My dad asked with concern. Hey Mom, how are you doing? What did you do to make your grandmother like this? Grandma looked upstairs with tears in her eyes, and I followed her gaze. Jean Wuji was still standing upstairs. She tilted her head like she was watching a play, her eyes showing not the slightest concern, but rather looking at her grandmother as if she were observing a dead cat. Detached and indifferent tears welled up in the corners of her eyes, and she turned to look at her grandfather. Medicine. Old man. Medicine. Her voice trembled. I suddenly froze, locking eyes with my grandfather. Tomorrow in the previous life was the time when Grandpa took the wrong medicine. We all understood. Grandma must have been reborn, too. My dad didn't get what we meant. Medicine. What medicine? Mom. Where are you feeling unwell? Let me take you to the doctor. Grandpa helped Grandma up, patting the back of her hand to comfort her. Everything will be fine, dear. Don't worry. Grandpa and Dad helped Grandma settle into bed. Grandma held onto Grandpa's hand, refusing to let go, and kept saying the medicine was mixed up. The medicine was mixed up. I didn't mix it up. I put it away a long time ago. You should rest well. Girl. Come over here and keep an eye on your grandma. After Grandpa gave me instructions, he left the room. I knew Jean Wuji was going to be in trouble, but he deserved it. My dad stood by the bed, his mind in a complete daze, and asked, What's going on? Girl. I poured a glass of water for my grandma and replied irritably, It's all because of your precious son. The cat was poisoned by him. My dad was somewhat skeptical. That can't be right. How would he know what poison to use? It was him. It was him who poisoned it. My grandma said sharply. Then I saw it in my previous life. No one but Jean Wuji would harm a cat. I helped my grandmother catch her breath in my previous life. After grandfather passed away, Grandma fell ill from grief. Everyone was immersed in sorrow over grandfather's death, but only Jean Wuji acted as if nothing had happened, eating and playing as usual. On the day after Grandpa's funeral, Jean Wuji took Grandpa's portrait to draw on. The old man had just been laid to rest, and his portrait was already being defaced by his grandson, which Grandma happened to witness. Grandma was so angry that her heart ached, and she demanded that Jean Wuji return the portrait, but he refused. The two began to struggle over it, and Jean Wuji even hurled harsh insults. When I heard the commotion and rushed over, Grandma was so angry she had a stroke and was trembling all over, while Jean Wuji seized the chance to snatch back Grandpa's portrait with a forceful tug. Grandma lost her balance and fell backward. Her head hit the ground first, and after falling, Grandma's limbs began to convulse violently in an unnatural posture. Finally, Grandma had a stroke and fell, causing a cerebral hemorrhage, and the rescue was ineffective. I can't forget how Jean Wuji, after grabbing something, looked so smug and made faces at my grandmother as she fell. Grandfather came in holding a wooden stick about 2 fingers thick and walked toward Jean Wuji with a chilling air. Seeing this, Dad was greatly alarmed and immediately followed up to stop Grandpa. Dad. Dad. What are you doing? Girl. Help me up. I helped my grandmother sit up. Grandma. How are you feeling now? Grandma got out of bed. I'm fine. I supported Grandma as we left the room. Dad blocked in front of Grandpa, preventing him from going upstairs. Dad. Let's talk calmly. What are you doing? That cat might not have been poisoned by Xiaojia. Grandpa was about to hit someone. And he wouldn't stop until the wooden stick broke. It was Jean. I started to speak. But Grandma pressed my hand to stop me. Then, I heard my grandmother say, "It was him. I saw it with my own eyes. He was told not to touch the medicine. Yet he still did." In my previous life, I discovered that Jean Wujia had taken medicine from the medical kit. At the time, I thought he had listened to me. But I never expected he would secretly mix the medicine into the cat food. He actually knows everything. Knows he can't eat it. Knows to hide it from others. Knows to mix the medicine into the food. He is a potential serial killer. Dad didn't come back to life. And I knew Grandma said that because she was afraid our father-daughter relationship would grow distant. But compared to those lives, a strained relationship is nothing. I don't want to wait until they realize Jean Wujia is a bad person before they regret it. Grandma is right. He did it on purpose. If he dares to put poison in the cat food now, next time he'll dare to put it in our water. Dad. He just needs a lesson. My dad felt a headache. He had seen firsthand how harsh his father could be when he was a child. If you really got hit, not being able to walk normally for a week would be the least of it. Grandfather. Will you move or not? If you don't move, this stick will land on you. Jean Wujia walked down from upstairs. He seemed unaware that trouble was about to befall him. Seeing his father and grandfather in a tense standoff, he stood by the side, gloating and watching the drama unfold. What's going on? Dad. Did you make your dad angry? Are you going to get beaten? Jean Wujia spoke up, clearly not minding if things escalated. Did you give the cat its medicine? I asked. He answered as if nothing had happened, but his eyes darted away. No. It's not. I sneered. Dad. Did you see that? Lying has become a habit. So much has happened these days. And yet he still won't be honest. Dad opened his mouth, still hesitating. And Grandma resented his foolishness. I'm telling you. In our previous life, your dad and I were killed by this little beast. Grandma's voice was hoarse and trembling, her eyes brimming with tears. Do you think I'd faint from anger over a cat? Do you think your dad got so angry just because of a cat? You fool. Use your brain and think. At first, Grandma thought she had a dream. But it wasn't until the cat died and she overheard the conversation between me and Grandpa that she realized it wasn't a dream. My dad froze. What? Previous life. Idiot. Haha. Dad. Grandma is scolding you. Oh, while Dad was stunned, Grandpa pushed him aside and struck Jean Wujia with a stick. Jean Wujia screamed in pain, clutching his leg, and immediately burst into tears. Grandpa's anger did not subside. How could you be so cruel? Everyone in our family is kind-hearted by nature. How did we end up with a rotten seed like you? I'll beat you to death. You wicked thing. I watched coldly as Jean Wujia was chased and beaten by Grandpa. The wooden stick thudding heavily, mostly hitting the wall, the stool, and the floor. Grandma turned her gaze away, her eyes filled with disappointment. I heard her sigh heavily. All these years of love were in vain. My father, feeling distressed, ran his hand through his hair and left the living room. Jean Wujia was hit 3 times and kept dodging and running. The stick in Grandpa's hand had already broken against the wall. But he didn't let go of Jean Wujia. Jean Wujia wanted to hide behind his grandmother. But the grandmother didn't protect him as she used to. He had no choice but to run outside to the vegetable garden to find his mother. What Amam? My mom initially thought we were fighting. When she saw Grandpa coming out with a wooden stick, she immediately put down the hose and shielded her son behind her. Dad. What are you doing? Dad. I stepped out. Jean Wujia poisoned the family cat, made Grandma angry, and mocked Dad. So he got beaten. My mother's face turned green as she pointed fiercely at Jean Wujia's head. Day after day. Can't you just stay out of trouble? Jean Wujia clung tightly to his mother. I'm in so much pain. Grandpa hit me so hard. I'm going to die. I saw my mother's expression soften. Grandpa tightened his grip on the wooden stick, his breath still cold and heavy. If I catch you damaging anything in the house again, I'll break your hand, Grandpa said coldly to Jean Wujia, then threw away the wooden stick in his hand and went back into the house. I followed him inside. But my father called me aside. He asked me what my grandmother meant by her words. I answered honestly. Grandpa and Grandma, we've all been reborn one after another. In my previous life, Jean Wujia killed us. No. I can't say killed. He murdered us. I recounted in detail all the evil deeds Jin Wujia had done in his past life. My father looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face filled with disbelief. How could this be possible? I know it's hard to believe. But Dad. Just wait and see. Time will prove everything. Back at home, Grandma was checking Grandpa's medicine, making sure there were no issues before giving it to him. Grandpa's medicine was kept even more securely. Each time it was stored, a photo was taken. And before the next dose, they would check to see if it had been tampered with. The Grandpa safely made it through the days of taking the wrong. It was my dad who spent these 3 days in a daze, always distracted when doing things, and got scolded by my mom several times. Soon he saw with his own eyes that everything I said was true. Jin Wujia was so scared from the beating that he had been sticking close to his mother these past few days, following her wherever she went that evening, holding a bottle of iced tea. He followed his mother to the vegetable garden by the fish pond to plant vegetables. Dad came back from the field and happened to see Jin Wujia standing by the pond, unscrewing the cap of a bottle and preparing to pour the liquid into the fish pond. Dad immediately rushed over and snatched the bottle away. Upon smelling it, it turned out to be paraquat. It turned out that Grandpa had hidden the paraquat in a pile of firewood in the back mountain of the storage room. Very secretly. Unexpectedly, Jin Wujia would find him again. Even though his father didn't believe in reincarnation, he finally believed after seeing his son's stubbornness firsthand. Whether intentional or not, Jin Wujia would poison the fish in the pond. Jin Wujia was beaten again, this time by his father and mom, just like Dad had done before. Tried to stop him, then was told that our family had died at the hands of Jin Wujia in the past life. Despite the deep mother-son bond, Mom's acceptance was even lower than Dad's. Seeing that the bruises on her son from a few days ago hadn't faded, and now he was about to be beaten again, she tightly held her son close to her chest. Dad also issued a warning to him. Are you going to die if you don't stop for just one day? If you have nothing to do, go do your homework. If I catch you playing with pesticides or any other drugs again, I'll take care of you myself. No need for your grandpa to lift a finger. Everyone was targeting Kim Mu-jae, which made my mother suspicious. In the evening, my grandmother tried to drug Kim Mu-jae, but my mother found out and had a big argument with her. This was the most intense fight between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Mom, he's your own grandson. How could you do this to him? What did Shao Jia do wrong that you'd give him so many sleeping pills? Grandma was also crying and arguing. Do you think I wanted to? You already know too that paraquat was poured into the fish pond. If it weren't for Nyo Air watching him earlier, the family's dogs and chickens would have died long ago. Soon after, your dad died from an acute reaction to the medicine he mixed up. I was angered to death by him. And you all were poisoned by him in my previous life. Today was the day Grandma was angered to death. And the time was also in the evening. Now we have to live in fear every day, afraid that any meal we eat might be poisoned. Hello, where's my son? He never learns from punishment. And he can't be taught. Keeping him around will only bring trouble to the whole family. When he grows up, he'll become a danger to society. Next to Grandma's feet was a broken cup with milky water spilling all over the floor. What the hell kind of rebirth is this? You're breaking the law. If you want to kill my son, kill me too. My mother threatened to take her own life. My grandmother was so angry that her face turned pale. My grandfather and father each tried to calm their own wives. And the argument finally came to an end. After that, even without Jin Wujia following along, my mother started taking him with her. Not long after, my father was reborn as well that evening. Our family killed a chicken. Killing the chicken was fine. But no one was happy. Everyone was in a depressed mood. Especially my dad, whose face seemed covered in a layer of haze, gloomy and overcast. On this night in my previous life, we killed a chicken and made a pot of chicken soup filled with seasonings. And the rich aroma of the soup could be smelled from outside. My younger brother, with a mischievous grin, brought a touch of joy to our long dull home. He smiled and said, "Drinking today's soup will make you grow stronger and healthier then." Thoughtfully, he served chicken soup to each of us, as if he had personally cooked it, eager for us to taste it. He smiled and urged us to drink the soup. And at that moment, I felt that having him in the house added so much warmth and liveliness. Everyone tried to move past the sorrow of our grandparents' passing, laughing as we drank the soup. Only now do I realize it was a death potion. He wanted us to taste how his soup, laced with paraquat, tasted. We drank it first. Then he drank it after Rebirth. I finally remembered that when he poisoned the chickens. He said the same thing. After taking the medicine, the chickens grow more meat. Only later did I learn what his original words were. Sprayed fruits and vegetables can grow more vigorously. He is a born bad seed. As a farmer's child, he was warned from a young age not to touch, let alone consume, paraquat. It was clearly about killing weeds and reclaiming nutrients that rightfully belonged to fruits and vegetables, so they could grow vigorously. Yet, he strangely reversed the subject and predicate, poisoned a chicken, told him about the effects and dangers of paraquat. But he still doesn't learn his lesson. Poisoned a dog again. Still doesn't learn his lesson. The thinking of a bad seed is always different. To my surprise, my younger brother was unusually well behaved tonight. He sat at the dinner table early and even smiled at me. I suddenly felt uneasy, but remembering that the meals were now strictly monitored, I suppressed my unease. When the chicken soup was served, my brother eagerly ladled it out. Just like in the previous life, drinking today's soup will make a person grow even more vigorously. The moment Jin Wuji finished speaking, I felt a chill run down my spine, and a sense of unease instantly rose to the forefront of my mind. I glanced at my dad. Dad pursed his lips tightly, the veins on his hands standing out. I cleared my throat softly, signaling to them, "I want to eat first." I immediately took my bowl. As soon as I started, they instantly understood. Each took their own bowl. "Your mom just said she wanted to drink water." My dad took my mom's bowl away. My mom brought out an empty bowl. "Let's eat." Jin Wuji smiled and said, "Mom, I've ladled some soup for you." My dad quickly added, "Honey, I've filled your water bottle. It's so hot today. Don't get heat stroke." My mom seemed not to hear, gently stroking Jin Wuji's head. "You've lost weight these past few days. I specially killed a chicken for you. Drink more. Don't mind them." After saying that, my mom put 2 big chicken drumsticks into Jin Wuji's bowl. "Son, eat more. Get all your nutrition back." I couldn't figure out what was going on for a moment. "It smells so good." I was about to go get some soup, but my mom hit my hand with chopsticks. I pulled my hand back. "If you said you didn't want to drink it, then don't drink it. Your brother has been a big help these past few days. This is his reward." My mom is acting a bit strange tonight. I was trying to test whether she knew there was something wrong with the chicken soup, but her words and actions left me completely confused. If it was poisonous, she let her beloved son drink it. If it wasn't poisonous, she didn't drink it herself until evening. I found out the answer. Jin Wuji soon started to have a stomachache. None of us cared about him, so he had to go find his mom after about half an hour of pain. His mom finally told us. Dad immediately went to start the tricycle, only to find that the tire had been punctured. In recent years, our family has spent all our money on buying a house, and due to transportation issues, we haven't bought a car yet. There was no other choice but to borrow a vehicle from someone in the village. There are few young people in the village, and the person who owns a car happened to be away. So, Dad had to ride a motorcycle to take Jin Wujia to the hospital. Mom didn't want to go along, so I accompanied Dad. Jin Wujia had already passed out from the pain. I questions in my heart. "Dad, why is the car broken?" My dad glanced back at Jin Wujia, his expression a mix of complex emotions, and said, "In our previous life, we clearly had a chance to survive. But this scoundrel punctured the tire. When we called to borrow a car, the families with cars weren't home, and we missed the best time for rescue." Suddenly, it all made sense to me. What about Mom? Your mom was reborn just before cooking. This scoundrel had hidden some paraquat, and your mom saw him pour it into the chicken soup with her own eyes. She lost all hope. So, let him be. Let him reap what he sows. So, what if he's our own flesh and blood? He's a bad seed. Now that he's dead, everything in the house can finally rest in peace. When we arrived at the hospital, Jin Wujia couldn't be woken no matter how we called him. So, he was immediately taken into the emergency room. The doctor asked what had happened, and my father immediately replied, "This dead kid accidentally swallowed paraquat." An hour later, the lights in the emergency room went out. My brother didn't make it. He passed away. Take him back. When the whole family saw his body, their emotions were incredibly complex. After a long while, my grandfather finally spoke. "Good. He brought this upon himself. It's better this way, so he won't harm others." Yes. Justice is clear. And retribution is inevitable. From then on, no evil spirits haunted our home again. What are your thoughts after hearing this story? Feel free to share your feelings in the comments section. Now, let's start a new story. In my previous life, my mother caused the domineering CEO father to die in a car accident, my grandparents to go bankrupt and commit suicide, and my uncle to be falsely accused and imprisoned. After being reborn, they all sought revenge against my mother together. Father stared at mother's slightly swollen belly, his eyes filled with malice. Fu Jili, you're trying to trick me again with your fake pregnancy act. This lifetime, I will never believe you again. But the next second, he unexpectedly heard my thoughts. Fake pregnancy. Daddy thinks the baby doesn't exist. I'm right here. Daddy, you're so handsome. Look so awesome. You'll definitely protect mommy and me. The domineering dad froze in shock, while the rich, handsome uncle beside him sneered coldly. Fu Jili deliberately said she was pregnant to make us feel sorry for her. Then she's going to start plotting to harm us. Humph. This life. I'll make her suffer more than death first. Mom looked at them in confusion, while I kicked furiously inside my belly. Uncle. My mom isn't lying. When the baby is born, I want Uncle to lift me high and spin me around. Everyone stared at Mom's slightly protruding belly, suddenly falling into silence. Didn't you Wei say that Fu Jili was faking her pregnancy? Who is this little one holding a concert in the belly under the hospital's cold lights? The whole family's eyes were fixed on their mother's slightly protruding abdomen. I shyly curled up, rolling halfway around in the warm womb. Woo. So many people are staring at the baby. I'm going to be shy. Dad and Uncle's bodies trembled almost imperceptibly at the same time, while Grandpa and Grandma exchanged a surprised glance. They all clearly heard this milky, childish complaint. Fu Yue, however, remained completely unaware, only puzzled by the sudden, even more eerie silence from everyone. The dagger in Dad's hand clattered to the ground. He stared intently at Mom's belly, his gaze shifting from sinister to increasingly bewildered. Mom looked up at him, confused, and asked, "What fake pregnancy? Honey, are you just too excited about becoming a dad?" And Mom, Dad, little brother, why do you all look so grim? Aren't you happy that I'm pregnant? No one paid attention to Mom's confusion. Their eyes were filled with deep resentment. Doctor, Dad suddenly shouted toward the door. Arrange a pregnancy check for her immediately. Full examination. Fake daughter Fu Yue quickly grabbed her father's sleeve, her voice tinged with urgency. Brother Yanchen, didn't you see with your own eyes last time that her big belly was stuffed with a pillow? And the private doctor I found before clearly said she wasn't pregnant. So, why bother checking again? Hearing this, my little feet gently kicked against the uterine wall badly again. In the previous life, Mommy already had me, but she was pushed down the stairs by a bad person and lost the baby. She held a pillow every day, singing lullabies. The baby could only turn into a little ghost, wiping Mommy's tears and massaging the Yama's legs for 3,650 days. The baby's little hands are sore from pounding, finally earning the chance to be reborn and return to Mommy's belly. Thinking of this, my nose tingled with emotion, and I couldn't help but nuzzle the uterine wall gently, like a little kitten to Mommy. Don't be afraid. This time, the baby will definitely protect you. I'm looking forward to seeing the world. Looking forward to meeting Daddy and Mommy. Shut up. All of you. Dad suddenly covered his ears, his pupils contracting sharply as he stared intently at Mom's belly. Doctor. Pregnancy check. Now. Immediately. Fu Yue's eyes flickered with a hint of panic. Uncle couldn't help but furrow his brow during the examination. As the cold coupling gel touched Mom's belly, I curiously wriggled a bit. Wow. The cool gel feels like jelly. Is the doctor uncle using the probe to find the baby? I'm here. I'm here. Let Daddy see me. Dad unconsciously held his breath, staring intently at the screen. Uncle also instinctively took half a step forward, while Grandpa and Grandma clenched their hands tightly. Suddenly, the ultrasound machine emitted a loud and powerful thump-thump sound. A tiny silhouette appeared on the screen, actively kicking its little legs. 14 weeks of pregnancy. Fetal heart rate monitoring is normal. The doctor adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Fu is indeed pregnant and the baby is very healthy and active. The color drained from Fu Yu's face instantly and she quickly spoke up. Impossible. You all saw it in the previous life. She falsely accused me of pushing her down the stairs and what came out after the miscarriage was a pillow. Brother Yenshin. You saw it with your own eyes. 2. How could she possibly have been pregnant? The whole family was stunned. But what echoed in their minds was my earlier statement. I lost the baby because I was pushed down the stairs by a bad person. Especially Dad, who listened to my cheerful inner thoughts and then looked at the little bean on the screen that truly existed. His expression grew incredibly complex. Seeing everyone's expression soften, I immediately put on a pitiful expression and spoke softly and weakly. It's possible that in a past life, I really misunderstood my sister. She was actually pregnant at the time, but accidentally miscarried. Then went insane and mistook a pillow for her child. But I just can't understand. How could someone with intellectual disabilities and mental illness be so calculating, capable of scheming to kill us? Hearing this, my uncle immediately sneered. His eyes filled with suspicion and hatred. Even if it's not a false pregnancy. So what? Fujioli ruined our family in his previous life. That's an undeniable fact. And what good could possibly come from such a vicious woman's womb? It might just be a little bastard coming to collect a debt. Wah. Uncle is so bad. How can you say baby is a cursed child? Baby is here to repay kindness. A good baby certified by the king of hell himself. I pouted with a sense of grievance, turning over unhappily in my mother's womb. Uncle was caught off guard by the sudden protest. Falling silent and closing his mouth. Mother seemed to sense something. Gently stroking her belly. Looking even more bewildered at her family. You guys are so strange. How can pregnancy be linked to past and present lives? No one had the patience to explain matters of past lives to a dim-witted beauty. Fuyui's eyes turned cold and gloomy. But when she looked at her uncle and grandparents, her voice was dripping with a sickly sweet tone. Brother. How can you say such things about sister and the unborn child? Sister doesn't know anything right now. And her intelligence is low. Perhaps the malice from her past life. Enough. Dad suddenly interrupted her sharply. He rubbed his temples. His mind filled with my words. Turning into a little ghost to wipe mommy's tears and pounding her legs for 3,650 days. His heart inexplicably aching. Even if she is bad. The child is innocent. His tone was still firm. But the previous killing intent was clearly gone. The grandfather also frowned, looking at his daughter's bewildered, innocent eyes and her swollen belly, and spoke in a deep voice. Before things are completely cleared up, let's all say less. His gaze swept over Fuyui, carrying a hint of scrutiny that was hard to detect. Grandmother gazed at the little life on the screen, her eyes briefly revealing a subtle, almost imperceptible softness. Fuyui saw that they were actually hesitating. Her heart flustered. Yet she appeared even more aggrieved on her face. Besides, maybe this time our family could finally have a good ending. Hearing this, the whole family felt as if the events of their past lives were replaying before their eyes. Unable to let go of their vigilance and the hatred in their hearts. Fuyue, seeing that she had achieved the desired effect, immediately looked at her mother with a provocative gaze. Sister, look how much everyone cares about you. You must take good care of the baby. Mom didn't detect any malice in her words at all, responding with a bright, silly smile and a vigorous nod. Sure. Thank you, Vivian, for your concern. I'll keep going with the baby. Fuyue was choked by her innocent reaction, almost unable to maintain her expression. Returning to the Gu family's old mansion, the atmosphere remained heavy. Although Dad didn't mention torturing Mommy again, his gaze was still icy. Grandpa and Grandma were silent. And Uncle had even moved to the guest courtyard farthest from the main house. Out of sight. Out of mind. But it seemed as if the words "Uncle is bad" were always echoing in his ears. Weekend family banquet. A crucial bidding price document from Grandpa's study has vanished without a trace. Investigate. Get to the bottom of this. Grandpa's face turned livid with anger. Only family members knew where this document was kept. All suspicious gazes instantly focused on Mom. After all, in the previous life, it was Mom who leaked the company's secrets. Fuyue supported her grandfather, appearing worried, but actually guiding her with every word. Sister, only you have entered Dad's study these past few days. I know you have a bad memory during pregnancy, but the documents are very important. Quick. Try to remember where you put them. Mom looked completely confused, trying hard to recall. I did go into the study to bring Dad some ginseng tea, but I didn't touch any documents. Oh, no. The bad auntie is trying to make Mommy take the blame again. It was actually the bad auntie who sneaked into the study last night, took Grandpa's documents, and hid them under the carpet. The baby saw it all. You're trying to frame mommy again. You bad guy. I got so angry I started tugging at my umbilical cord inside mommy's belly. The faces of the father, uncle, grandfather, and grandmother all changed at the same time. Their gazes suddenly shot toward the corner of the study. At the carpet. There, indeed, was a small, barely noticeable bulge. Fuyu noticed his gaze, her face paling instantly, and instinctively reached out to cover it. Dad's face was so dark it could drip water. His gaze icy as he stared at her. Take out the files you've hidden under the carpet. Fuyu stepped back in fear. Brother Yenshin. I didn't take it out. Dad's tone was unmistakable. Finally, the lost document was found under the carpet. Frame up. Irrefutable evidence. Fuyu's tears welled up instantly. Her shoulders trembled slightly, looking utterly aggrieved. I hid it. I'm sorry. I'm just too scared. I'm afraid my sister will leak such an important document again. Just like in the previous life. Causing our family to go bankrupt and starting a tragic life. I didn't know what to do. I just acted on impulse. I thought I'd hide it first, then secretly put it back after the bidding was over. So it would be foolproof. This reasoning was full of flaws. Even somewhat foolish. However, seeing Fuyu crying so bitterly and mentioning the misfortunes of her past life, the sternness in her grandparents' eyes slightly faded, replaced by a hint of complexity and understanding. As if her foolish actions were truly driven by love and fear for the family. Her uncle immediately stepped forward, shielding her behind him. Divi is also thinking for the sake of this family. She just used the wrong method. Compared to some people who deliberately schemed in their previous life, causing our family to be torn apart and destroyed. What does this unintentional mistake amount to? I lay in my mother's belly, my little feet idly paddling in the amniotic uncle. The bad auntie is not unintentional at all. She is deliberately framing mommy. If it weren't for daddy helping mommy this time, mommy would have been falsely accused of leaking secrets again. Just like in the previous life. Silly uncle. I won't let you lift me high anymore in the future. My uncle's body suddenly stiffened. His arm protecting Fuyue becoming noticeably rigid. His mood heavy. My father frowned deeply, staring at the crying Fuyue. Not speaking immediately, but the suspicion in his eyes grew even stronger. In the following days, similar small incidents occurred one after another. Whenever something bad happened at home, all the evidence would point to my clumsy, beautiful mother. Every time the whole family cast their habitual, hateful gaze at my bewildered mother, my clear and urgent inner voice would always chime in at just the right moment. Like a little detective pointing out the crucial evidence. At first, they were still skeptical, but each time they followed the hint to investigate. They found the evidence with pinpoint accuracy, proving my mother's innocence again and again. The look in my father's eyes when he looked at my mother was no longer the pure hatred from the beginning, but filled with disbelief and confusion. And grandpa and grandma looked at mom's always clear, yet slightly foolish and innocent gaze. In contrast to Fuyue's pale excuses each time she was exposed, they fell into a long silence. Even the most steadfast uncle, faced with repeated coincidences and evidence, gradually found it impossible to immediately speak out in defense of Fuyue. Instead looking at mom with increasingly complex and scrutinizing eyes. Could it be that the wicked woman Fujili, who in a past life caused their family to be destroyed and their loved ones lost, really innocent? After a business dinner ended, Dad and Uncle went to the parking lot to get the car, while Mom and Fuyue followed them. Suddenly, a dozen men armed with sticks and menacing expressions emerged from the shadows surrounding them. Guainchin. Fuji Hong. Long time no see. The man leading them sneered. Finally caught you alone this time. I won't consider it a day's work unless I beat you into cripples. Oh. You brought two pretty women with you. Humph. Perfect. Let's all go together. I was jumping anxiously inside my mother's womb. This didn't happen in my past life. Why are bad guys suddenly appearing to bully Dad and Uncle? Dad and Uncle must be careful. Hearing my inner voice, Dad and Uncle immediately tensed up, swiftly turning back to back into a defensive stance. Dad looked at the lewd man leading the group, his face darkening. Watch your mouth. One more word and I'll tear it out. Uncle also looked extremely pale. Yue. Fujili. You two go first. Fuyue's voice trembled. No. How can I leave you behind with so many people here? We're family. Even if her mother was mentally impaired, she could still sense the danger and protect her belly. muttering a sentence. All right. I'll go first. After saying that, she actually turned and ran away without hesitation. Her speed was so fast it hardly seemed like that of a pregnant woman. The father and uncle, seeing her resolute figure fleeing alone and abandoning them, couldn't pretend not to feel a chill in their hearts. The resentment toward her, which had recently begun to waver, surged up again. The uncle let out a sneer, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Sure enough, when danger strikes, she's no longer foolish. Her selfish nature is laid bare. Exactly the same as in the last life. We actually believed her time and again. Fools for 2 lifetimes. Huh. Dad's thin lips were tightly pressed together. Although he didn't speak, his eyes grew much colder. Seeing her mother run off, Fu Yue's eyes flashed with surprise and triumph, then quickly shifted to an expression of extreme concern. Brother Inchin. Even if my sister doesn't care about our lives, she's still pregnant. There are so many bad people out there now. I'm worried. I'll go check on her. After saying this, she quickly ran off as well. But, instead of catching up with her mother, she hailed a taxi and drove away with a cold sneer. In the parking lot, Dad and Uncle stood back to back, surrounded by over a dozen burly men wielding iron rods. Both were injured, with Dad's lips split and bleeding, and blood seeping through the shoulder of Uncle's white shirt. The leader of the thugs had a fierce glint in his eyes as he raised a cold iron rod. Brothers. They're exhausted. Let's go together. They're worth a lot. Each one is worth at least a few million. If we sell their organs separately, they'll be even more valuable. The crowd was about to rush forward again, and my father and uncle looked extremely grim. At that moment, my voice echoed first from the darkness. There's no signal in the parking lot, but Mommy has already called the police and also phoned Grandpa and Grandma. The police mice will be here soon. Daddy and Uncle, you must hold on to Mommy. You must protect yourself, too. Baby is so scared and worried. Then came her mother's scream as she rushed out of the parking lot holding a thick wooden stick, sweating profusely. Stop. No one can bully my husband and my brother. Dad's eyes were filled with shock and horror. Uncle's ear was injured, bleeding profusely, and he couldn't hear anything. Seeing Mommy run back, his face was filled with sarcasm and hatred. I didn't think about standing together just now. And now you come back pretending to care. Afujili. Are you here to see how we get beaten to death? Seeing us about to die again. Are you happy? Mom ignored her uncle's mockery, seeing the group swinging sticks toward her uncle's head. Brother. She screamed, rushing forward like a madwoman and throwing herself onto her uncle. The heavy iron stick struck her body hard and cruelly. Mom let out a scream of agony. And right in front of her, Uncle collapsed limply to the ground. Bright red blood instantly gushed from between her legs, quickly staining her light-colored skirt. 2 voices, shocked to the point of distortion, simultaneously pierced the silent night sky. Fujili. Sister. When the police arrived, the criminals had already scattered and fled. Dad rushed into the ambulance holding Mom, who was covered in blood, while Uncle, clutching his bleeding ear, staggered behind, his usually straight back now slightly hunched. The red light in the emergency room came on. Uncle leaned against the wall, blood dripping down his arm. Yet he didn't seem to notice, staring intently at the door. Dad's suit was stained with blood. His tie loosened, and he slammed his fist into the wall, his knuckles instantly swelling and turning red. Did she not think at all when she lunged at me? Uncle's voice was hoarse. That stick was aimed at my head. Dad didn't speak, only tightening his jawline further. My mind is filled with the image of my mother's clear and resolute eyes as she lunged forward, and the blood stain that bloomed on her skirt as she fell, and the soft voice of the baby in my belly saying, Daddy, Uncle, you have to hold on. Fu Yue had already returned to the old house and was sobbing in her grandmother's arms, her tears falling like pear blossoms in the rain. Mom, I'm really scared. Sister ran so fast. No matter how much I called her, she wouldn't turn back. I know she's pregnant and afraid of getting hurt, but Brother Yanchen and brother are still over there. How could she? Again. Just think of herself like in the previous life. Grandpa only heard chaotic fighting and screaming when he answered Mom's call. At this moment, listening to Fu Yue's tearful complaint, his face turned ashen, and his hand holding the teacup trembled slightly. Grandmother's hand patting Fu Yue's back also paused, a deep disappointment flashing in her eyes. Even though there had been many suspicious incidents recently, the instinctive reaction in a moment of danger could not be faked. At that moment, Dad's phone call came in, briefly informing them of the hospital's address. When the three arrived at the hospital, Mom had already been taken to the ward for fetal protection. Her face was pale, and even in her unconscious sleep, she kept frowning uneasily. Dad stood beside the bed, gazing at her slightly swollen abdomen with a complicated expression. Uncle had bandaged his ear and silently leaned against the window, his bangs falling over his forehead, hiding the emotion swirling in his eyes. "What happened?" Grandfather asked in a low voice, his gaze sweeping over Mom's shoulder and back wrapped in gauze. Uncle suddenly lifted his head, his voice hoarse. "Dad. Mom. It was her. She threw herself in front of me to block it. That stick was aimed at my temple." He paused, struggling to add, "If it weren't for her, I might have already." Tears still streaking Fuyu's face. Her expression froze instantly, a flicker of disbelief and panic flashing across it. She immediately covered her mouth, her eyes turning red again. "Really? Sister? Oh my God. I wronged her. I was so scared at the time. I didn't even see clearly before rushing to get a car to save you. I didn't know Sister had actually gone back. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I misunderstood her." She cried with genuine emotion, filled with regret. That wicked aunt is acting again. She clearly saw Mommy run back, yet she deliberately hid. She wishes Daddy and Uncle would be killed, and Mommy would miscarry, so she can seize the entire inheritance alone. This time, I was so angry I kicked Mommy in the stomach. The fetal heart rate on the monitor suddenly spiked. Dad. Grandpa. And Grandma's gazes suddenly turned to Fuyu, filled with an unprecedented scrutiny and coldness. Uncle also slowly raised his head, staring at Fuyu's pitiful face, for the first time not immediately speaking up in her defense. So Fuyu's crying abruptly stopped. She felt a chill run down her spine under those gazes and instinctively took half a step back. She clearly felt that something had changed. Mom stayed in the hospital for a few days and her complexion gradually became rosy. I also stayed peacefully in my warm little house. The atmosphere at home quietly began to feel different. In the early morning, Dad would bring warm milk and silently place it on the bedside table next to Mom. Although he still didn't speak much, his gaze was no longer as cold and piercing as before. Once, when Mom unconsciously nuzzled her pillow in her sleep, Dad stood by the bed for a long time and even reached out to gently tuck her stray strands of hair behind her ear. Wow. Daddy tucked Mommy's hair behind her ear. So gentle. Daddy's hands are so nice. I happily did a somersault in my mom's belly. Dad's hand paused, then quickly withdrew as if scalded, though the tips of his ears quietly turned red. Uncle also came a few times, always standing at the doorway, watching from a distance that was neither too close nor too far. He brought a box of super sweet strawberries, placed it on the table and said stiffly, "Someone gave it to me. I don't like sweet things." But Grandma had clearly said that Uncle loved strawberries the most. Uncle is so two-faced. He loves strawberries the most, yet pretends he doesn't. He. Even shy Uncle is so handsome. Uncle, who was about to turn and leave, stumbled slightly, nearly tripping over his own feet. But instead of immediately returning as he used to, he just walked away faster. Fuyu stood in the shadows, feeling the scene before her eyes was unbearably glaring. She watched her father occasionally cast a gaze at her mother's belly, filled with curiosity and a hint of barely noticeable tenderness. She observed her uncle's awkward yet no longer hateful attitude and noticed her grandparents' hesitant silence. A sense of crisis began to coil around her heart. No. This must not be allowed to continue. A sinister plan took shape in her mind. Since the last attempt to frame Fuji Lee for stealing documents failed, she would play a bigger game this time. Just like in her previous life, she would make Fuji Hung go to prison. As long as Fuji Hung was once again harmed by Fuji Lee, losing his reputation and ending up behind bars, all the hatred would instantly reset, even intensifying. She skillfully forged a guarantee contract signed by her uncle and several large financial transaction records, using her knowledge of the Fu family's business and her uncle's habits, cleverly framing him for serious commercial fraud and illegal asset transfer. She did it more covertly and more viciously than in her previous life this time. She must crush Fuji Hung completely, leaving him no chance to ever rise again. A few days later, while my uncle was in a meeting at the company, a group of uniformed police officers barged directly into the conference room. "Mr. Fuji Hung, we suspect you are involved in massive commercial fraud and illegal asset transfers. This is an arrest warrant. Please come with us to assist in the investigation. The cold handcuffs snapped shut around my uncle's wrist. The news that reached the Gu family was like a bolt from the blue. Grandfather's blood pressure soared with rage, while grandmother clutched her chest and collapsed onto the sofa, her face deathly pale. Dad frowned and immediately called his lawyer and various contacts. Fuyu accompanied her grandparents to the police station, watching her uncle being taken away. A flash of satisfaction quickly crossed her eyes before she replaced it with a tearful expression. Back at the tense old house, she supported her nearly unsteady grandmother, her voice choked with tears. How could this happen? How could my brother do such a thing? Everything at the company seemed fine recently, except that my sister seemed to casually ask me a few days ago about where my brother keeps his signature and seal. I didn't think much of it at the time. She successfully drew everyone's attention to her mother, who had just been discharged from the hospital and was now home looking dazed and confused. Her mother looked up blankly. Vivi, I didn't ask you about this. Sister. Fu Yue interrupted her with heartbreak, tears falling at just the right moment. Are you still pretending to be innocent at this point? In your previous life, it was you who used similar tactics to send to prison. In this life, we've already tried our best to avoid you. So why won't you let him go? Just because your brother said a few words to you last time, she cried heartbrokenly. If my brother really goes to jail, the Fu family is finished. How can you be so cruel? Grandpa suddenly looked at Mom. His eyes filled with immense disappointment and anger, raising his hand as if about to strike. Fu Jili, it really is you. A dog can't change its habit of eating shit. Dad grabbed Grandpa's hand to stop him. Grandma looked at Mom, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling. Jili, tell me, was it you? Was it? Mom was terrified by the sudden accusation and could only shake her head desperately. It wasn't me. Mom. Really? It wasn't. I don't know. I'm so angry. It's that wicked woman again. She forged my uncle's signature. The contract is fake. The fund flow records were also falsified by her. That wicked auntie forged documents using her computer. Although she deleted the browsing and editing records, they can still be recovered. Dad. Quickly find a tech expert. Hurry and save my uncle. He's innocent. I was so furious that I kicked and punched inside my mother's womb, wishing I could jump out immediately to expose her. My angry and clear scream echoed like thunder in the minds of my father, grandfather, and grandmother. The three faces changed dramatically. Dad's eyes instantly turned sharp as knives, glaring fiercely at Fu Yue, who was still performing. Grandpa's hand froze midair, his gaze filled with shock as he looked at his adopted daughter who was crying bitterly. Grandma's sobs also stopped abruptly, her eyes wide with disbelief as she stared at Fu Yue. Fu Yue felt a chill run down her spine under their suddenly changed gazes. She forced herself to stay calm and said, Dad. Mom. Brother Inchin. What's wrong with you? Why are you looking at me like that? I know you're upset. But the fact is, shut up. Her father sharply cut her off, his tone colder and more disgusted than ever before. He immediately took out his phone and made a call. Bring 2 technical experts and a female assistant to the old house right away. Immediately. Also, contact lawyer Lei and have him go directly to the police station to follow up on Fu Jihong's situation. At the same time, he gave the butler a subtle glance, signaling him to keep an eye on Fu Yue. Grandfather took a deep breath, looking at Fu Yue with a complex and agonizing expression. Finally, closing his eyes in sorrow, grandmother seemed to have been suddenly drained of all strength, collapsing onto the sofa and muttering, How could it be? Wei Wei. How could it be you? Fu Yue's face turned deathly pale in an instant. She didn't understand what had happened, why their attitudes had suddenly changed so drastically. The tech expert and assistant arrived quickly. Dad immediately ordered someone to search Fu Yue's room. What are you doing? Why are you searching my room? Dad. Mom. Brother Inchin. Don't you trust me? Fu Yue was completely panicked and wanted to rush forward to stop them, but was blocked by the butler. Soon, the assistant found the draft of the forged documents and some details of the fake accounts from the hidden compartment of the jewelry box. The technical expert then recovered the deleted data records from her computer using the USB drive. The evidence was irrefutable. Browsing history, file modification records, forged electronic signature templates. Each one, every single piece, pointed directly at Fu Yue. All her performance just now turned into the most ridiculous irony at this moment. No. It's not like that. It's a frame-up. Fu Jili framed me. Fu Yue completely broke down, screaming hysterically, her face contorted, no longer showing the slightest trace of her usual fragility and pitifulness. You've all been deceived by her. Seeing that everything had been exposed, Fu Yue decided to completely throw caution to the wind. So what if it's me? It was her fault to begin with. I just wanted a home. I just wanted everyone to love me. But what about you all? You're always around her. Even if she ruined your family in a past life, you still choose to believe her. What about me then? What am I supposed to be? Grandma and Grandpa looked at Fu Yue and sighed deeply. How could it be you? Wei Wei. Fu Yue froze slightly, but her eyes still brimmed with hatred. The family looked at Fu Yue, who seemed like madwoman before them, then turned to their mother, who stood trembling in fear, yet still had clear, bewildered eyes. Everything came to light. A wave of immense absurdity and anger at being deceived washed over him. It turned out that in both lives, they had been manipulated by this seemingly weak woman. They had hated the wrong person, protected the wrong person, and nearly caused an irreparable tragedy. Again, Uncle was soon released without charge. When he learned the whole truth, especially the conspiracy orchestrated by Fu Yue across 2 lifetimes and the fact that his mother had risked her life to save him, this proud man stood outside his mother's hospital room for the entire night. The next day, with bloodshot eyes, he brought a box of sweeter, larger strawberries and gently placed it by his mother's bedside. Go ahead. It's good for the child. His voice was hoarse, carrying an almost imperceptible trace of guilt and tremor. Mom blinked her clear, bright eyes and happily picked up a strawberry. Thank you, big brother. Strawberries are so sweet. Uncle is so shy. But a good uncle admits his mistake. Baby will allow you to lift me up from now on. Hearing those soft, innocent thoughts and seeing Mom smile, free of any shadow, the uncle's eyes suddenly stung with emotion. He almost frantically turned his head away. Fu Yue's end came quickly. In the face of ironclad evidence, all her excuses were feeble and powerless, with Dad using all his resources to investigate the traces of her involvement in the framing and even possibly indirectly causing the car accident and bankruptcy were unearthed one by one, with multiple charges combined. On the day the verdict was delivered, she screamed and cursed hysterically in the courtroom, appearing utterly insane, shedding all pretense of her former fragility. After experiencing immense pain and disappointment, my grandparents eventually shut their doors and refused to see anyone. They redirected more attention and guilt toward my mother and her increasingly prominent belly. My father's change was the most noticeable. He was no longer as cold as before, although he still didn't speak much. He would come home on time every day to have dinner with my mother at night. He would gently place his hand on Mom's belly, feeling my movements. Daddy's hands are warm. I like it when Daddy touches me. At those moments, Dad's cold lips would always curve slightly upward, revealing a faint, but genuine smile. He even started reading stories to me in the womb, though his tone was always stiff, as if he were chairing a board meeting. Daddy's storytelling is so nice. But could you please not read the 10 key elements of business mergers and acquisitions? Baby wants to hear a piggy story. Dad closed the book in his hand, remained silent for a moment, and the next day, there was actually a copy of Peppa Pig complete story collection in the study. The whole family was utterly charmed. Time flew by swiftly amidst love and anticipation. My due date has arrived. In the delivery room, Mom was very brave, while Dad held her hand tightly with more sweat on his forehead than hers. Grandpa, Grandma, and Uncle anxiously waited outside the door. Wow. It's so bright outside. The baby finally gets to see Daddy and Mommy. With a loud cry, the little princess of the Goo family, was safely born into the world. Dad was the first to hold me, his hands that once wielded power in the business world now trembling gently, as if cradling a priceless treasure. He gazed at my wrinkled, rosy little face, his eyes soft to the point of melting. I'm your dad, he murmured, his voice hoarse with overwhelming emotion. Daddy. I curved my eyes that hadn't yet grown eyelashes and blew a bubble at him. Dad froze instantly, his eyes actually turning slightly red. From that day on, I became the undisputed little darling and little lucky star of the entire Goo family. It's quite magical to say. Ever since I was born, the family's luck has been absolutely through the roof. The multinational project that Dad had been struggling to secure for a long time suddenly saw the other party make a significant concession. leading to a smooth signing under extremely favorable terms, causing the group's market value to soar. The new technology company overseen by my uncle had been stuck on a critical technical hurdle for half a year, but on the day of my first month, news broke of a breakthrough, opening up a bright future. The rare orchid, which Grandpa had nurtured for years and had been barely alive, miraculously sprouted new shoots and bloomed just 2 weeks after my birth. Grandma's long-standing joint problems had shown little improvement despite visits to numerous renowned doctors. But since she started holding and soothing me every day, she said she felt much lighter and her legs and feet had become much more agile. Even the lottery ticket bought by the butler uncle unexpectedly won a modest prize. Everyone said that I came with immense blessings, that I was here to repay kindness, and that I was the true treasure of the Gu family. My father named me Guyanan, wishing me a smooth, a peaceful, and joyful life. They were eager to present the best things in the world right before me. The days flowed sweetly amidst my babbling thoughts and the whole family's flurry of activity. Dad had completely transformed into a doting father. Once the stern and imposing CEO who graced the covers of financial magazines, he now carried my pacifier in his suit pocket and kept a photo of me grinning toothlessly in the most prominent spot on his desk. During video conferences, if I happened to wake up and let out a little whimper, he would immediately signal for the meeting to pause, then lower his voice and ask in a tone so sweet it could kill, "Is Yanan awake? Does she miss her daddy?" The executives on the other end of the screen were so shocked their jaws nearly dropped. "Daddy is so mushy. But baby likes it. Hee hee." Dad listened to the inner thoughts, looked at the suppressed laughter on his subordinates' faces in the camera, his ears slightly reddening, but he cleared his throat and pretended to be calm, saying, "Continue." My uncle became my personal vehicle. He loved lifting me high up and letting me ride on his neck to inspect various departments of the company. Employees often saw the notoriously sharp-tongued and demanding Mr. Fu carrying a babbling little bundle on his head, walking carefully, afraid of bumping into door frames with an unprecedented look of patience and a silly grin on his face. "What are you staring at? Have you finished the proposal yet?" Uncle met the employee's gaze and immediately resumed his cold expression. But the next second, upon hearing my inner thought, "Uncle is so impressive," the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curve upward uncontrollably. Grandfather has retired, and doting on his grandchildren has become his greatest joy. His most important task every day is to push the stroller and take me to the park to show off. Old Jung. Look. My granddaughter. Don't her eyes resemble mine? So full of spirit. Oldly. Envious. Aren't you? Your brat only knows how to wreck the house. Unlike Mayanan, who's so well-behaved and even smiles at Grandpa. Grandpa looks so handsome today. His beard is prickly but fun. Grandma, on the other hand, loves dressing me up as all sorts of cute little princesses. Pink lace dresses. Fluffy rabbit costumes. She and my mom, two beauties, one big and one small, often lean their heads together helping me pick outfits. The scene is so heartwarming. It's almost unreal. Although Mom is still as innocent as ever, with everyone's care and love, the joy in her eyes has become even brighter. She loves holding me the most, rubbing her soft cheek against my little belly, making me giggle. "Hey, Mommy." Is fragrant soft baby loves Mommy the most. At such moments, Dad would embrace both of us from behind, his chin gently resting on Mom's head, forming a warm and solid protective circle. He firmly protected both my mother and me within his own world. My first birthday celebration was held with great grandeur. At the ceremony, various small objects symbolizing future professions were laid out in front of me, including an abacus, a fountain pen, books, a stethoscope, and a seal. My father and uncle secretly competed with each other, with one placing a miniature abacus beside me and the other placing a small ancient bronze coin. After staring for a long time, I crawled over with great effort, grabbing the abacus my dad had placed with one hand and accurately scooping up the copper coin my uncle had set down with the other. "I want both. The baby is as clever as daddy and will be as wealthy as uncle." My whole family was amused by my greedy move and burst into laughter. Dad and uncle exchanged a glance and, for once, didn't argue with each other. Instead, they both saw a sense of relief and pride in each other's eyes. Finally, I staggered around and threw myself into the arms of my mother, who had been watching me tenderly, planting a slobbery kiss on her face. "I love Mommy the most. I will protect Mommy forever." Mom smiled so much that her eyes curved into crescents. holding me tightly. Dad's heart instantly melted into a puddle and he wrapped both of us, mother and daughter, tightly in his embrace. Grandma and Grandpa smiled as they wiped away tears, while my uncle took out his phone to capture this perfectly complete moment. The lights were gentle and the years were peaceful. All misunderstandings and gloom had dissipated, leaving only the regained precious love and fulfillment. I knew that our happy story had just begun. Daddy, Mommy, Uncle, Grandpa, Grandma, Baby loves you so much. Let's stay together forever and ever. At the moment the heartfelt words fell, Dad gently kissed Mom and me on the forehead. Yes, forever together. After hearing this story, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing your voice.